Call the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us there this evening and all those who are watching us at home. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Ronald Evans of the Wilmington Police Department for their invocation. I'll ask if everyone will stand and remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sergeant Evans, welcome.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you first and foremost for your many blessings and your grace and your mercy that you bestow upon us day in and day out. We ask that you keep us wrapped in your arms, hold us close to your bosom, continue to protect us from the seen and the unseen. We pray that you continue to give the wisdom and the knowledge of this council as they prepare to make decisions that will be beneficial to the citizens of Wilmington. We pray this prayer in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have several presentations this evening. Our first presentation is I'd like to recognize Ruth Smith, President of the Honor Flight of the Cape Fear area. Ruth, is Ruth here? Come forward, please. Come on, everybody. Good to see you too. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Hey, good to see you. From the city of Wilmington, recognition, whereas the security of the United States relies on patriotic women and men who put their personal lives on hold and place themselves in harm's way to protect the cherished freedoms on which this country was founded. And whereas the Honor Flight Network is a national nonprofit organization enabling over 250,000 World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War veterans with an opportunity to take an all-expenses-paid trip to Washington, D.C. to visit the military service memorials. And whereas Honor Flight of the Cape Fear area is an all-volunteer local hub of the Honor Flight Network, whose mission is to pay tribute to veterans in the Cape Fear area and to educate members of the community about our local heroes. And whereas on April the 20th, 2024, 75 World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War veterans will fly out of Wilmington International Airport to Washington, D.C., giving participants the unique opportunity both to pay their respects to their fellow soldiers and to receive the time of reflection and celebration they so richly deserve. And whereas North Carolina's veterans embody the spirit of service with a willingness to find meaning in something greater than themselves, and it is fitting and proper that the outstanding accomplishments and sacrifices of these distinguished Americans be honored appropriately. Now therefore be it resolved that North Carolina veterans are commended, Honor Flight of the Cape Fear area is recognized, and the city of Wilmington extends its deepest appreciation to those who stood ever ready to make the ultimate sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. I want to say congratulations to each and every one of you for making this reality for so many of the veterans in this community, in this region. And Ruth, you and your group do an outstanding job, and it's just an honor to come out to the airport early in the morning to watch them depart to go to Washington and come back in the evening and watch the outstanding support that this community bestows upon all our veterans. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Ruth Smith, who is the chairperson of this great committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Sure appreciate the strong support we've received from you all over the years. I want to be sure to give you a few more little tidbits. This year we will have 2 World War II veterans, 12 Korean era veterans, and 61 Vietnam Cold War era veterans traveling with us to Washington for the day. We get so much support from the community, but I particularly want to say thank you to the mayor and council for their support. The Wilmington Convention Center is a great partner of ours, and I know they're a partner of yours as well, so I always like to add that in. And I also want to be sure to invite the community to our Welcome Home celebration. We will be arriving back in Washington, D.C. after our very busy day, probably about 9:15 on Saturday evening. We believe that parking and traffic may be a little bit increased from recent years, but we would like for you to please come out, be patient, find a safe place to park, even if it's alongside a road we think will be okay. But please come out and greet our veterans line. It's called Airport Boulevard, that beautiful road that leads up to the terminal. Line that with signs so that when our veterans come home, they get the welcome home that so many of them gravely deserve and did not get when they returned to our country after being overseas. So thank you, and look forward to seeing you all on Saturday evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Sure. Really good. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite Liz Carbone, the Chair of the Joint City-County Community Relations Advisory Committee. City of Wilmington, North Carolina, the proclamation reads, whereas the Fair Housing Act enacted on April the 11th, 1968 was adopted to prohibit discriminatory housing practices, undo racial segregation patterns, and provide equal access to housing opportunities for all. And whereas each year since the enactment of the National Fair Housing Law, the federal government has designated April as Fair Housing Month. And whereas in Wilmington, the combined federal, state, and local civil rights laws protect people from housing discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, familial status. And whereas as a community, we understand that economic progress and competitiveness is best served by promoting diverse, inclusive communities with equal access to good jobs, schools, healthcare, transportation, and housing. And whereas the joint City of Wilmington, New Hanover County Community Relations Advisory Committee is tasked with addressing community issues involving prejudice or discrimination on the basis of race, national origin, creed, of religion, age, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or medical condition, and has identified fair housing as a key issue needing further attention in our community. And whereas we celebrate the passage of the Fair Housing Act, let us recommit ourselves to eliminating discrimination in housing by dismantling the barriers to housing choice, acknowledging the intersection of health, economic, and housing inequities, dedicating resources to meaningful address disparities, adopting policies that support our community's most vulnerable residents, measuring the impacts of our efforts in creating more housing that welcomes and celebrates people of all abilities, races, cultures, and incomes. Now, therefore, I, Bill Saffo, on behalf of the Wilmington City Council, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2024 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Wilmington. I just want to thank you, Liz, for everything that you folks do every single day for our community. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is Pam Hardy here? Pam, come on up. And the entire team from Duke Energy, if they'll come. Pam, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see everybody. City of Wilmington, proclamation reads, whereas line workers are often the first responders during storms and other catastrophic events working to make the scene safe for other public safety heroes, and whereas these brave men and women work with thousands of volts of electricity high atop power lines 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to keep electricity flowing, and whereas line workers must often work under dangerous conditions far from their families to construct and maintain the energy infrastructure throughout the state of North Carolina and the United States, and whereas line workers put their lives on the line every single day, with little recognition from the community regarding the danger of their work. Now therefore be resolved that the Wilmington City Council proclaims April 18, 2024 as Line Worker Appreciation Day. And I can tell you without a doubt that I can't wait after a storm to see these folks come up there and do their job, because we need power, and we just appreciate all the hard work you folks do. And I've seen them out in storms. I've seen them in all kinds of weather, making a significant sacrifice for our community, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Sappho, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, City Council member and staff, thank you so much for taking this time to recognize these first responders who are out blue sky days, hurricanes, and the like. Thank you so much.
Give them a big hand, please. Thank you. Let's just pray for no hurricanes. Aaron Reese, our tree arborist here. City of Wilmington proclamation reads, whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Bill Sappho, Mayor of the City of Wilmington, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby declare April 26, 2024 is Arbor Day in the City of Wilmington. And Aaron, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you and your staff for the outstanding work you do to try to preserve the tree canopy in our community. I know it's challenging at times, but you do an outstanding job, and the crew does an outstanding job in doing that, so thank you. Thank you very much. Brings us to our next item of business, which is our consent agenda, items 1 through 8, or 1 through 6. Are there any items that any council member would like to hear separately? If not, what are the wishes of this council? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. This brings us to our next part of our meeting, which is our public information segment. We have 6 speakers that have signed up to speak tonight. Each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes. The clerk will be keeping time. Our first speaker is Mr. Tom Carlin, who will be speaking to us about peace in Palestine. Mr. Carlin?
Good evening, Mayor Sappho, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, City Council, City staff, fellow audience members. Thank you for this opportunity to say a few words to you on the resolution before you. My name is Tom Carlin. I am an 18-year resident of Wilmington. I am also an individual of Palestinian heritage. My maternal grandparents emigrated to the United States from Palestine in the late 1940s amid the strife surrounding the founding of Israel. My paternal great-grandparents emigrated to the United States from Palestine around 1900 looking for a better life. But tonight I am addressing you as just another of many increasingly concerned and alarmed American citizens, and I want you to know, as one of your constituents, that I and my family care deeply about the issue of justice and fairness for Palestinians alongside the real security needs of Israeli citizens. And in fact, those two are synonymous. So I'm here to implore you to take up and seize the opportunity of the ceasefire resolution as the best course for achieving more peace for both Palestinians and Israelis. The ceasefire resolution is about getting back to the long road to peace. War and bombardment are not the answer. Only mutual respect and dialogue will bring peace. There were three other areas, specific areas I want to go further into. First is the urgent need to respond to famine in Gaza. The most urgent and most obvious imperative is human needs. Before the current conflict, Gaza was very dependent on outside aid. Israel imposed a siege on the territory and has hampered the provision of humanitarian support from entering. Israel made a claim against the main aid agency, and many countries ceased funding for UNRWA as a result. A ceasefire and of the resolution that can support it is needed to allow humanitarian support to be brought in safely. And the ceasefire resolution is also effectively calling for starvation to cease being used as a weapon of war and revenge. Reasonable self-defense of Israel, which is legitimate, is not related to this question. What we are saying is that Israel's response of targeting all Palestinians as a population with restrictions on supplies has resulted in predicted famine, and we need to push back on that. We don't stand for starvation as a weapon, not in our name, not with our budget. The second point I would like to talk about is the plausible genocide claim, and we are asking for the ceasefire resolution to stop what has become clear to many people, including those on the International Court of Justice, which is that if the Israeli leadership have their way, they would use the pretext of self-defense to reduce, or worse, the population, the Palestinian population of Gaza. We see this in the bombardment of all things needed to sustain life and culture, including hospitals, universities, museums, residences, roads. After 6 months of bombing, this is not Israel acting in reasonable self-defense. This appears to be the attempted dispossession of Gaza Palestinians of their land and the destruction of their hopes for statehood in historical Palestine. We do deplore absolutely the taking of hostages by Hamas and the killing of Israeli citizens, full stop. So what is our response to all this? Doing nothing, remaining silent in the face of extreme suffering and illegal aggression is not us. But we, the United States, as the biggest ally of Israel, has the responsibility to make sure our assistance is not abused. We must speak up when our political allies contravene our principles. In conclusion, we support the ceasefire resolution and ask you to adopt and discuss the ceasefire resolution because we do not support the colonization by force and starvation of one people by another, whether in Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan. And ceasefire is a positive message as well, that we are on the side of peaceful coexistence and that respect for human rights is the path. We're asking City Council to amplify this message. If I have just a few more seconds, I want to end with a quote that I really appreciate from Dr. Martin Luther King in his Beyond Vietnam speech. And a little bit of it was used in a past presentation, but I'm going to take another piece of it. And he said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." So in solidarity with all those in suffering in Gaza and those who need peace in Israel, we ask you to support the ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Ms. Hannah Hearn. Is Ms. Hannah Hearn here? Ms. Hearn?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Hannah Hearn, and I'm a 10-year Wilmington resident. I'm here today to talk about the continued attacks on Palestine and demand that a ceasefire resolution be put on the City Council's agenda immediately. First, I want to reiterate and share some recent facts regarding the impacts of the attacks on Palestine. So first, to demonstrate Wilmington's own connection to this issue, we have weapons exports right in our backyard. On the Cape Fear River, we have the Military Ocean Terminal Sunny Point, also known as Matsu, which is the Department of Defense's primary and largest ammunition seaport in the entire United States. And they ship ammunition, explosives, small arms ammunition, artillery shells, fuses, and propellants, ammunition for vehicle systems, and aircraft bombs and ammunition to European, African, and Middle Eastern areas of operation. And ever since they were activated in in 1955, we have transferred munitions to every major armed conflict ever since it was established. So we absolutely have a responsibility in this issue. Now, to move on to some facts about the most recent death tolls and numbers coming out of Palestine. Just yesterday, on April 15th, it was reported that 2 mass graves were discovered by Gaza's health ministry and the civil defense forces in the north of the Gaza Strip. Some of the people who had been killed and buried appeared to have been patients at the hospital and had medical bandages and catheters still attached to their bodies. Family members of the deceased who identified the bodies confirmed that some of those killed were patients. They include an elderly man, a woman, and a man in his mid-20s. Now, the death toll, the most recent number, is at least 33,797 Palestinians have been killed since the Israeli Defense Forces attacks on October 7th. And 76,465 have been wounded from the attacks. And sorry, I misspoke. I meant Gaza's attacks on October 7th. To put this in perspective, if you're a visual person like me, this is equal to 704 buses full of Palestinians who have been killed already. And that is equal to 1,593 buses full of Palestinians wounded. And I want to put this into perspective just a little bit. I want us to imagine that this is happening to Wilmington, that this is happening to our citizens. So let's imagine that it's 33,797 Wilmingtonians who have been killed since October 7th, and 76,465 Wilmingtonians who have been wounded since October 7th. Imagine that we would have to live our lives in fear every single day. Imagine that no matter how much we tried, we could not protect our children from being killed. Imagine seeing the place you love and seeing the people that you love being decimated right before your eyes. And you have to count on decision makers that you've never met in your life to decide to stop it. We've had ample time to do something about what we're seeing. It's been at least 6 months since the October attack, half a year of retaliation from the Israeli Defense Forces, half a year of mass murders of Palestinians. And this has already had lasting effects and will continue to have lasting effects on the victims and their families. Unfortunately, we don't have much time before there will barely be any Palestine left. And I worry and I wonder, will our kids know about Palestine, or will they just learn about it in history classes? Will Palestinian families have to explain to their children why they have no place to go home to? And for the children who have lost their families already, what is their future? Will they have to learn about the horrifying reasons that they don't have their parents anymore? For parents who have lost their children, how long will they have to grieve before they have any semblance of a normal life? One day in the near future, we will have a ceasefire. I refuse to believe that we won't. People will grieve and they'll begin to heal, and there will be talks about how we prevent this from happening in the future. Palestinians will start rebuilding their lives. Israeli citizens will have to reckon with what their government has done. And people around the world will have to heal and come together to help recovery efforts. And if we keep going the way we're going, Wilmington as a city will remember that we did nothing to try to stop the harm. Or perhaps our story will be that we were part of the efforts to save Palestine, no matter how small. And if we pass a ceasefire resolution, we would be joining Carrboro, Durham, and over 100 other cities across the United States in passing a ceasefire resolution. So I'll conclude my time here, and I urge the City Council to put the ceasefire resolution on the agenda and vote yes for a permanent ceasefire. Free Palestine. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Ms. August Schaller. Is August here?
Hello, City Council members. My name is August Umi Schaller. I have lived here for nearly a decade. I'm an active member of the local arts community, a business owner, and I'm proudly Jewish. I urge you to add on the city's agenda a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. I've spoken about this issue before, about my family having been in Palestine and Israel for generations, and how we all need to summon the courage to speak on this humanitarian crisis. Today, I'm going to read to you a selection from the draft resolution brought forth by passionate volunteers in Wilmington. You will hear in plain English what I and other active members of your constituency ask of you. Hopefully hearing this will dispel any false impressions and help us move forward on this issue. I will begin. Quote, "Be it resolved that the City of Wilmington calls upon our U.S. congressional delegation, both in the Senate and House of Representatives, to join us in 1, urging the Biden administration to immediately call for and facilitate de-escalation and a ceasefire to urgently end the current violence, and 2, calling upon the Biden administration to promptly send and facilitate the entry of humanitarian assistance at the scale needed into North and South Gaza. Be it further resolved, the City of Wilmington supports residents of all faiths and condemns Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Be it further resolved, the City of Wilmington urges the Biden administration to work for the release of all hostages held in Israel and Gaza. Be it further resolved that the City of Wilmington Council ask the clerk to quickly send copies of this resolution to the President of the United States, Wilmington's congressional delegation, state representatives and senators, as well as the governor, urging them to take immediate action by using their position and influence to help end Israel's assault on Gaza, one of the worst assaults on any civilian population in our time." End quote. As you heard, this is not about division. This is about calling for the violence to end. This is about our city using its position on the state, national, and global stage to denounce brutality. Wilmington has a powerful voice, one that will be heard if we choose to use it. So I ask you, with the utmost urgency, take up the resolution and call for a ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Elizabeth Farquhar. Elizabeth?
Hi, council members. My name is Liz Farquhar, and I have lived in North Carolina for the majority of my life. I am here to urge you to join the 132 other United States cities and adopt a ceasefire resolution for the war on Palestine. Many people have expressed concern, saying that Wilmington shouldn't pass a ceasefire resolution because we have no place in this war and that the city of Wilmington won't affect anything happening overseas. Wilmington's opinion is just a drop in the bucket, so it's better to avoid saying anything at all. In fact, they're saying it's too divisive to say ceasefire now. But it is not divisive to call for the end of the killing of innocents. Furthermore, you cannot live in the powerhouse that is the United States and say we have no impact on world affairs. I would like to point out a couple of direct connections to the war on Palestine that we Wilmingtonians have. 3 weeks ago, the Biden administration approved the transfer of a new arms package to Israel, including more than 1,800 2,000-pound bombs and 500 500-pound bombs. Our taxes paid for those bombs. Additionally, the State Department also authorized the transfer of 25 fighter jets and engines worth roughly $2.5 billion to Israel. It is worth noting that neither Hamas nor Palestinian people have fighter jets themselves. Our taxes paid for those jets. Wilmingtonians also work at the GE Aviation in Castle Hayne, where parts are made for American aircrafts sold to Israel. Our labor built those planes. Local longshoremen, tug operators, and pilots load and escort munition-laden ships leaving Sunny Point through our waters. We are a major port that weapons move in and out of. Our waters transport those weapons. Wilmingtonians own stock in the American corporations propagating this war, including Raytheon and Boeing and others. Over 50% of U.S. income, mostly from taxes, goes to military expenses. Our tax money directly supports this genocide. 3 weeks ago, the UN Security Council voted in favor of a temporary ceasefire for the month of Ramadan. The United States abstained from voting and Israel continued bombing Rafah. However, last week, after months of pressure, Biden met with Israel's leader and called for a temporary ceasefire. The mere fact that Biden has that sort of influence over Israel's affairs shows that we need to continue to apply pressure to our people in power more now than ever to obtain a permanent ceasefire, not a temporary, a permanent ceasefire. Without the U.S.'s influence, it is doubtful one will ever be obtained. A temporary ceasefire simply is not enough. It should not be divisive to stand against a power committing war crimes. War crimes documented such as collective punishment. Although Hamas broke a ceasefire on October 7th during their attack on the Israeli people, Israel has been indiscriminately punishing all civilians, which is prohibited by the Geneva Conventions. Pope Francis, the UN, and Doctors Without Borders have denounced the continued assault. Israel has also been having a blockade. All essential supplies are being cut off to civilians at the hands of Israel, including water access, which is against international humanitarian law. They have also used white phosphorus in civilian-filled areas on October 12th and October 16th. They airstriked the Al-Shati and Yabalia refugee camp, as well as the Church of St. Porphyus and several hospitals, which are not military bases, as you may assume. More recently, there was the Flower Massacre, where 118 people were shot down by the IDF while seeking food from aid trucks. The United Nations Human Rights Office has called for an investigation, and Amnesty International has already launched an investigation looking into this event. There are thousands of people in Palestine right now pleading us not to stay silent, no matter how small. They are pleading us not to give up hope on them. Hope is a form of resistance, and it is the only thing that many Palestinians have left since their homes and families have been bombed. We can't give in to the sentiment that Wilmington has no impact, because we do, and we need to use it to help. I would like to end with a poem written by Palestinian Marwan Makul. In order for me to write poetry that isn't political, I must listen to the birds. And in order to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Kathy Steele. Ms. Steele, is Kathy Steele in the audience? Kathy once. Okay. The last speaker this evening is Rabbi Benjamin Shaw, who will be talking to us about a proposed resolution in Mideast conflict.
Thank you, Mayor Sappho. I appreciate the leadership of all of you giving your time and talent to this community. My name is Rabbi Ben Shull, and I'm a hospice chaplain serving the Wilmington community. Moved to the area about a year and a half ago, and I already love this town and its people. I really appreciate your giving me time to speak briefly before you about the attempts by a large number of people here to have you pass a resolution regarding the painful conflict between Israel and its neighbors. So let me put it simply, paraphrasing our president: don't. Please don't. Let me offer you the following reasons. After months of debating this issue, and you know this has been month after month after month, these passionate but misguided people have come before you. A few things I think are crystal clear. One, the council here offering your time and talent to address the needs of this community. That's why you are here, and not to weigh in on complicated overseas matters. Two, the United States government has reiterated that Hamas is standing in the way of a ceasefire and not Israel, as the proposed resolution suggests. In fact, Israel has withdrawn most of its troops from Gaza at the present time. And it is Hamas that is stealing from the hundreds of aid trucks now flowing into Gaza from Israel and Egypt. And it is Hamas, and sadly some Gazan families, that are still brutally holding hostages taken on October 7th, over 100 men, women, and children who were there for over 6 months in the dungeons of Gaza. And it is Hamas that is using its civilians as cannon fodder, having built a subterranean terror installation under almost every mosque and every home and every hospital in its war to destroy Israel and to form a fundamentalist Islamist empire in the Middle East and beyond. Number three, the brutal attack by Iran against Israel this past Saturday night has laid bare the truth about this conflict. Iran and its proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, are in cahoots to destroy Israel and to destabilize the Middle East and threaten the United States and the entire free world. Number 4, far from bringing peace and quiet abroad, the efforts of these activists petitioning for a ceasefire and their comrades in the so-called Free Palestine movement have brought discord and pain to this Jewish community here in Greater Wilmington. We've received threatening emails, harassing phone calls, and even having our mezuzot, our religious symbols, torn down from the doorpost of some Jewish people's homes. And so instead of arguing and debating, let me use the remainder of my time to do what rabbis do best, to teach a brief biblical lesson. We're approaching the Jewish holiday of Passover this Monday night. Jews worldwide from Haifa to Hampstead will gather around the Seder table to tell the story of our people's journey from slavery to freedom. And we hear that call echoed long ago, "Let my people go." This is not just a call from the ancient past. It's a call that resounds through the ages, addressed to tyrants past, present, and future. Let my people go. To the tyrants of Hamas and the enablers in Iran and Qatar, you are holding over 130 souls, many already murdered, in the darkened dungeons and homes of Gaza. Let me just name 3. Oded Lifshitz, 83, a lifetime peace activist. He would drive sick Gazans to hospitals in Israel. Let him go. Noah Argamani, 26-year-old, young woman. You know Noah, no doubt you saw her video. The young woman, terrified, taken by terrorists on a motorcycle and pleading for her life. Let her go. And then Shiri Abbas. Take a look at her. She is 32, and her son Kafir and her son Ariel. Kafir is 1 year old. He celebrated his first birthday in the dungeons of Gaza. Let my people go. Let my people go. Again, to the tyrants of Hamas and their enablers in Iran and Qatar, the people of Gaza are my people as well, living in horror under the dangerous remnants of a brutal regime. We say to those tyrants of Hamas, lay down your arms and set your people free. Let the Gazan people be free. Let my people go. And we say to the Ayatollahs of Iran, let my people go, the brave people of Iran who yearn to breathe free. They are our people. Let them go, let my people go. And finally, I say to these activists, and I wish they would put their signs down and let people see, because the majority of people here in this community know that you are taking time, the valuable time of these people who are here to serve the needs of this community, by your misguided efforts. Let's have no more arguing in front of this city council. Enough is enough. Rather than speaking at each other, let us speak to each other. Come to an understanding. Let us go together from this night to bring a better future for our community and for all people throughout the world who yearn for peace. Enough with the slogans. Enough with your chants. I wish everyone here a season of renewal, a season of love, and a season of peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public hearings. PH1 is an ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair the dwelling at 233 Racine Drive, Unit 3, as unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Brian Renner, our Chief Code Enforcement Officer, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. The property that we're talking about tonight, the first one's going to be 233 Racine Drive, Unit 3. This is a townhome in the, I believe it's Ashton Townhomes complex off of Racine, 1,600 square feet, built in 1995. It's currently vacant. The owner is Mary Ellen Bramble, whom we've been in contact with. This is a view of the row of townhouses that the townhouse is in. The initial inspection of this property came from a call from the Wilmington Police Department, and then we've had several calls from neighbors about rats originating from the unit. This took place in March of 2023. We took it to a housing code hearing in July of 2023. The owner was in attendance there. Our order to repair was issued in August, and then it expired in January of this year. We have had several conversations with the property owner. She has done some cleanup efforts and had an exterminator come to the property. However, as we'll see from the photos, there's been a little improvement in the overall condition. That findings of fact that was issued at that hearing, we see that this met the deteriorated standard of the city's minimum housing code. So we're looking at a repair ordinance and not a demolition ordinance. These are the sections of the minimum housing code that were outlined inside of that order that's included in this packet. And now we'll look at some photos that were taken of the property. This is, again, the row of townhomes, and this is the individual townhome. It's right in the middle of the row. This is the inside going into the door. We have a lot of accumulation of combustible materials. We have a lot of sanitary concerns, and then also significant indication of rodents. This would be the living room area. This would be the bedroom, one of the bedrooms. We can see where there's a sleeping area where somebody had been staying here at one point. Conditions of the bathroom, and that's inside the garage. You can see a lot of that growth from the humidity on the ceiling of the garage. This is the upstairs landing. You see a lot of rodent droppings here, and this is a view looking down off that landing into the living room. This is a side bedroom that's unfinished, full of, again, combustible materials. And then this is going into the other bedrooms upstairs. And this is just another example of the rodent droppings throughout this unit. So what we're looking to do with this ordinance is the immediate authority to keep this building secured. When we first came upon this building, the door was wide open, and the police called us because they were concerned about the conditions from a health and welfare standpoint. But we have since been able to secure this building. We'd just like to make sure it stays vacant. And then we're looking at 10 days to order the owner to clean this unit out. If they do not clean the unit out, we will then exercise our authority to repair, and we're looking at doing a clean out and sanitation of this unit. And I'm here if there's any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Renner? Okay. Thank you, sir. Is the homeowner here or representative of the homeowner? Please come forward, ma'am. Just pull the microphone down.
Wait a minute. Okay. You pull it down further. There you go. Okay. I have been working on this all this time. I've had some health issues this year that have caused problems financially and otherwise, and made it more difficult for me to work on this unit. However, I have hired somebody recently who is going to help with all the carpentry, painting, etc., and help with hauling things away. I've also been hauling things to charity, etc., over the last 6 months. So it's not like I haven't been doing anything. It's just not up to speed to what the city wants me to do, or at least the code officers. So I am willing to work with them, and within my means financially, what I can do, I suppose that can be worked out with the city as to how to pay for this. But I have been, as far as the rodent problem, that has been taken care of as far as I know. I've had Kennedy and Sons come, and we have done the whole pest control thing, and I haven't seen a rat or any other kind of rodent for 6 months. And I think I have not heard complaints from any of my neighbors about that either. So, you know, we're working on all of this, but I'm certainly not able to do it in the timely manner, I guess, that the city wants it done. So I'm not sure who to talk to about that other than the code officers, but that's where things are.
And you, ma'am, you've had discussions with Mr. Renner?
I'm sorry?
You've had discussions with our code enforcement with Mr. Renner?
Yeah, but not recently.
When was the last time you had any conversation with him?
Well, we keep leaving messages for each other, but I think I haven't talked to, where is he? I don't know where he is.
Mr. Renner, could you
Yeah,
address
I haven't
that,
talked
please?
to him I haven't talked to in a while. I talked to Mr. Sims, who is a code enforcement officer.
And you'd indicated that you have several people lined up to help
Oh, I have somebody hired already.
to do this.
Yeah, to work on, like the cabinets in the kitchen, which are in need of repair and things like that. And he also is a carpenter and painter, so he's willing to help me with all of that. And he has a pickup truck, so he's willing to work, you know, on hauling things away. I've paid for 3 professional people to come in and, you know, do hauling and that kind of stuff, but they're really expensive. You know, so that just is a point where, you know, I just can't
Understand.
continue to pay for that.
So you have the burden of cleaning this unit up with the debris that we have seen here in the pictures.
Yeah.
You're saying that there is a financial burden to you to be able to complete that, to take care of that.
Well, I think now it would not be with this gentleman. I've been doing it myself, you know.
Ma'am, you'll have your opportunity to speak with, I will have a public hearing on this, but, so this is, Mr. Renner, can I ask a question real quick since Madam's up here? How long has this been in this condition that we're aware of?
The conditions, when we became aware of them, was in March of 2023.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Mary,
other words- I'm sorry.
Mary, you know, the issue before us is that we have to do something about this, and of course you've shared with us that you're making preparations and arrangements and to do this. We would have to have some sort of a time frame as to when you could get them done, and you would have to meet those time frames for us to continue to work with you. We try to work with all property owners, but at some point in time, we have to take action if you can't do it. So
Right, I agree.
you understand that, right?
I do.
Okay, and so I'm sure there's property owners there that also have some concerns about some of the stuff that has happened there, but that would have to be some sort of a time that you specifically tell us that you can get this stuff. And if you can't, then we'll have to make the arrangements necessary to take care of it
I
on
understand.
behalf of the city.
I understand.
Okay?
You know, in some ways, after what we've just witnessed, I feel like this is small potatoes, you know, compared to what's going on in the rest of the world. But I understand that my neighbors are concerned. The rodent problem was the main thing that I got complaints about from my neighbors, and we never could find out where they were coming from, except the woods behind the whole
Okay.
development. But those, as far as I know, that has been taken care of, at least so Kennedy and Sons assures me.
Okay,
So-
we have several questions here,
Sure.
Mary. Mr. Waddell?
Ma'am, thank you for being here tonight. Sorry it's under these circumstances. I just have just one question. Are you under a HOA? Is this property an HOA?
Yes.
Okay, you pay your HOA dues, and are you currently on those HOA dues, just out of
Yeah.
curiosity? Okay. All right, thank you. That's my only question for
Mr. Ravenmark?
You made a statement, ma'am, when you first started out, Ms. Bramble, about what the city and the code guy wants. Generally, I'd say probably 95% of the complaints that get to, as far as the code enforcement, are complaint driven by neighbors, what have you. So, we don't have enough staff to go right around Wilmington and find code enforcement violations. So it's not so much what we want or the code enforcement, it's what your neighbors want.
Yes.
And I understand, believe me, I understand financial constraints. I think probably we all do. But keeping that house secure, or that condominium secure, is of utmost importance as well, because I see it was one time they went there and the door was wide open. And in
Yeah,
this-
I don't understand how that happened, but,
I don't either.
I
But in this day and time, that's an open invitation for
oh, sure,
people that you don't want going in and squatting or whatever.
yeah,
So,
understood.
thank you, ma'am.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Mr. Barnett?
Ms. Bramble, right here, hi.
Okay.
You mentioned that you have a person who has said he can come and clean it up.
Yes.
Okay, because what I see is,
Well, I'm going to be
more
working
than one
with
person.
him. It's not just him
Right.
by himself.
right, but I mean, I think we need like 1,000 of you and 1,000 of him, because it's really a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I believe your intentions, but I don't think you or a one person can do that job. And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm really concerned not only about it being open, but I'm concerned about all of the things that may happen because the collection of things that we've seen in this, in our pictures, needs to be taken care of immediately.
Well, I have been over there working on this unit for 4 to 5 days every week, except when I had these health issues, and that was about a 2-month period where I was not able to do it. But I agree, and that's why I've hired this man. As I said, I tried using the professional people, but after 3 episodes with them, I realized that I just couldn't afford, what they were charging. So that's when I've decided, I've been looking for someone to help me with this, who could also do repairs, and painting
ma'am.
and things like that.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I found it.
Yeah. Do you have any family here? Anyone else helping you other than just this one individual?
I have no family that lives in Wilmington.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Want to see any other questions?
No, I do want to hear what my neighbors have to say, and there are 3 or 4 of them here, so I'm sure I will hear that. But I'm certainly willing to work with the city and the code officers. So I guess that's all I can say at this point.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spears? I'm sorry.
Ms. Bramble,
Mary?
I heard you say a lot of things, but I hadn't heard you say how much time you think you need to get this situated. Because clearly this can't be done in 10 days. So how much time do you think you need?
Well, I wish I could tell you. That's what I want to see with his name is Connor Butler, that can help me with this. I have been taking things to charities, all of that, Believe me, every charity in this town has received donations from me over the last 6 months. So I would rather see it go, things that are household goods and whatnot that are in good shape. I'd rather do that than see them go to the dump, which to me is a total waste. But that takes time to sort and to do. So if it's going to be somebody who's just going to come in and just haul
Ma'am.
everything away, then it'll all go to the dump, and that'll just be.
Right, so what I'm asking is, Brian, you said these pictures are from when?
Those pictures are from March 25th of this year.
March 25th of this year, and you said that, ma'am, you've been working on this for the past 6 months, 4 months, because you had a 2-month off time because of illness. And then this is going to be.
Well, I don't know, maybe the best thing, the way to work that out would be to talk, to have Mr. Sims, who's the one who's been coming onto the property, who's the code officer, and I will go over it all, and he gives me an estimate about how long he
No,
thinks it will
ma'am,
take.
but the decision will be made tonight. So I'm trying to help you.
I didn't
I want
realize
to advocate for you to do the right thing tonight, and I want you to tell me if you think you need 60 days, do you think you need 90 days, do you need 180 days? I mean, clearly in the past 6 months, you said you've moved stuff almost every day for the period of time, and you still have
Yep.
3 households of other stuff in your home. So just give me a number that I can try to help you, because you
Well,
can't do
as
this.
long as you can give me would be my answer. But what that is up to you to determine, not me.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can tell you, yes, I would like 6 months more to try to get all this done. And then I will either sell the unit or whatever I need to do, but I need to get it, back up to
Okay, thank you.
par. So
Yes, ma'am.
that would be, okay, that's a ballpark estimate.
Thank you.
Is it your plan to salvage the stuff and just move it to somewhere else, or is it all going to be thrown away?
Well, that's the thing. If someone just comes in and clears it out, it'll all have to be thrown away.
So you're not going to be in there picking and choosing. I mean, if somebody can come in there,
I have been in there sorting and picking and choosing, taking things to charities, Goodwill, AI, Salvation Army, Gospel Rescue Mission, every place has received
so
something.
basically what's left in there can be just cleared out and taken to the dump.
Some of it can, yeah.
Okay.
Some of it can't.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Any more?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. This time, I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anybody in the public wishes to speak. If they'll please come forward and state their name for the record and where they live. One at a time would be preferable, but come on.
My name is Rebecca Stoltz, and I live in Unit 2.
Please keep the microphone in front of your mouth there and just speak
is this
speak
better?
into it. Yes, please. Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Stoltz, and I live in Unit 2, which is directly next door to Mary Ellen Bramble. I've been there since 2007. The hoarding issue has been an issue for over 10 years, and we have tried to deal with it in a variety of ways, and we're always hearing, well, I'm working on it, I'm going to take care of it, and it doesn't happen. I guess the first time that I made a report to the code office was actually in May of 2021, and they came and looked, and they put something on the door, and they gave her certain amounts of time. Like she had 6 months, and then they extended it 6 months, and then they extended it again, I believe 6 months, might be only twice. But even the rats started, that was what prompted me to call. We understood the hoarding, and it gives me no pleasure to be here and to say this about my neighbor. But the hoarding was one thing because that was inside her unit. But now we've got rats, and I had an exterminator coming for 2 years, and I had told her about the rats. And she at first went to Home Depot and got her do-it-yourself rat killer, and that didn't obviously help, and then more time went on. But I've spent over $1,000 on, they charge you $125 to remove a dead rat from your attic. And so with the extermination, I've had to pay all of that. Also, they damaged all the insulation around my HVAC system in my attic. And so I've had to have that repaired. She's right, once she got Kennedy there, and it seemed like when she got her rats were in her living area. All the rest of us, our rats have been in the attic, okay? And once she got hers taken care of, and the way they got in was that they ate through her screen and got through an open window. At least, well, there's no way to ever know how a rat, you know, where they originated. But I mean, I'm just kind of sort of being logical and maybe commonsensical about where it came from. I think the biggest concern for us, I mean, not only the sanitation, but you know, when you live in a townhome, when you own a townhome, which I should say that's my primary asset. I mean, I'm retired, I'm a fixed income. That's what I count on. And I don't believe, I haven't heard her HVAC go on for at least 2 years. And so I can't imagine during the heat of the summer that there isn't mold in there. We know there were rats in there. There's the garage, the last time I saw the door open, it is like to the ceiling from the front to the back of trash. And that's right against mine. You know, we have a firewall, but my understanding is the firewall is just like a piece of wallboard, you know, that kind of slows it down for 20 minutes so that the spread, but it certainly isn't going to help. And I guess the other thing I worry is when she stays there in the winter, if she is cold and she uses a space heater, that's another, I mean, I don't know that she does that, but that's another fire hazard. So I worry about the sanitation. I don't know how mold operates in terms of spread, but I know during hurricanes and flooding and things, that's a huge issue in terms of the spread of black mold. So I worry about that. And I worry about her, because she was living there for a while, or for a long time. But it's not safe. It's a fire hazard. She also refuses to allow the termite inspectors to come in. And I think about 7 years ago, finally, after we, you know, pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and I called her and asked her, please, for the rest of us, will you do that? And she did, and they found termites. And then it was a period of time before she'd allow them in to treat the termites. And then she finally got the termites treated, but there hasn't been any follow-up on that. And so we don't know if there are termites in there. And so these are the things, you know, owning a home is a privilege, but it's also a responsibility. And I think those of us that maintain our places and maintain upkeep, make the repairs that are needed to be made, take care of issues that need to be taken care of, so that we can, you know, because it's an asset. I know in life, you know, bad things happen to good people, and life is not fair, that kind of thing, but it just seems like there should be a limit, particularly with townhomes where you're sharing walls, because what their choice of lifestyle impacts, you know, basically the value of our property and our health issues relative to just living. I think that's, does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, I'm Robin Schaefer, and I live in Unit 5. I will add to what Rebecca said. All of that is true. I've been in my unit for 14 years. This has been ongoing. And I want to tell you, there's no way that Mary Ellen could have been cleaning out her house because her car looks exactly like her house. There's no way that she could have put anything in that. Now, when she did have people that came and did, in the very beginning of the 6 months, she had some, I don't know what company that came, but it was witnessed that when they took things out and she put things by the car, when she could get it back in the house, she took it right back into the house. She cannot separate from her stuff, okay? And I don't believe that she is capable emotionally or physically, okay? She just doesn't have it. She will tell you stories that are not true. I know it for a fact. She doesn't tell the truth. I'm so sorry. This is really a serious problem. But this is not the first time for Mary Ellen. I'm going to say this. She's had another property that the city took over. So this is the second time, okay? And I do know that it's not fair to us to lay in our beds at night and hear the rats in the attic and have the damage that they're doing to our unit. And it's done. She's had the time. She has done nothing in 6 months. She doesn't deserve an extension. And that's what I want to add, okay?
Hi, I'm Linda Knob, and I am in Unit 4, so I'm on the other side of her unit. My parents bought the place in 1995 as a vacation place. We live in Raleigh, and my husband and I bought it from my parents in 2010. And over the years, since 1995, I'm not sure exactly when she moved in, maybe a couple of years after that, but we've always kind of noticed that there's a lot of stuff in the front. There's stuff on the stairs when we could see in. You know, it's like you kind of in the back of your mind that there was something going on there. But I will say in the past 5 years, it's become horrible because we have gotten the rats in there. And because we don't live there and we're not down there all the time, when we've had rats and we've had the people come in to, you know, set traps and that, I was not willing to leave the traps and come back in 2 weeks and smell dead rats in there and see bugs and flies and everything, which we've also had. So I actually went up there myself. I put on my big girl pants and I said, I've got to get up there and get those rats out of there. And it's a horrible thing to have to take a dead rat out of your attic. And I probably took 5 or 6 out of there, and then I didn't set any more traps. And you know, they come during the cold weather because they're trying to come inside. So the weather started getting hotter, and I just figured the rats wouldn't come inside. But we've noticed over the years the bugs, the insects, it always seemed like there was more than there should be in there. And, you know, we've seen all of the, you know, the backyard is full of stuff that's never been done. And I have to say, yeah, her car is like that, is packed. I don't know where she would put things in it to take to Goodwill or that, but you know, I don't wish her any malice at all or bad, anything. We just, you know, this is our property. We're in the middle of the unit, and I fear it could catch on fire and our whole unit would burn down. And it's a health hazard. I have grandkids now that want to go down there and play, and I don't want all of this, you know, stuff next door. So anyway, I just wanted to come and, you know, give my piece, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm sorry that I didn't think of this, but she does not live in her residence or her unit at all. She is staying in a hotel room, so that's, you know. And then also, she has another home to go to. She has bought another place, so she has a home to go to. We would like to see this. If she wants to live here normally, we are okay with that. But otherwise, we'd like to see her sell the place and go to her retirement home and be happy.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please, you're out of order. Madam Clerk, have you had any additional comments or anything that's sent to you?
No, sir.
Okay. Yes, you can rebut.
Yeah. Come on up, Ms. Bramble.
Basically, thank you. That the comment is absolutely not true. I have applied for a retirement home in Black Mountain, but I am on the waiting list. I do not have a place yet, and they say it will be a year to a year and a half before there will be availability. So that is not true.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question for staff. That's
Yes.
what-
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a question for staff. This is the first time I think we've seen a case like this, at least since I've been on council. And I know it's probably not our job, but do we have any, like, referrals that we could perhaps help Ms. Bramble? Obviously, she has a hoarding problem. Do we know anybody that works with hoarders that we could kind of like make some referrals?
Yeah, we have made referrals with other programs that we've been involved in, both local and on a more national level. Generally, the cost ranges from probably $10,000 to $30,000 for this type of clean out, and it really just depends on the level of service. We have made connections and done our best to have those conversations. To my recollection, I don't think that Ms. Bramble qualifies for city programs for a few reasons. But we're looking at doing a clean out with a vendor here and getting price to do that. So,
And, okay, and I guess I'm adding more so, do we connect the individual with help?
as much as we can. We can provide contacts and resources that we're aware of. We can connect them, and we do connect them with everything from adult services to cities programs to, you know, WARM and other organizations that we work with closely. And we have done that in this case, and unfortunately, that takes action from an owner and an individual, and then they also have to qualify.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
Brian, have you been in touch with the homeowners association at all there?
Yeah, we have had contact with them. They were notified of this hearing, and they've been notified of every process that we've done.
Don't they have governing documents that they can, this seems to me like a homeowners association dispute, and frankly, I don't think it should be up in front of us. Is it just the safety issue that got you involved? Or I mean, I just don't want to start having Judge Judy up here every other week when HOA people are upset with one another. What's the driving force here?
The driving force for this case is the city's minimum housing code, is public health and safety, sanitation, the combustible items. There's a lot of factors that are outlined within that findings of fact that's attached here that we're looking at that violate the city's minimum housing code, which, you know, passed by council is my job to enforce. When we talk about the HOA specifically, generally I would say HOAs only look at the outside of properties, not necessarily the inside, but I'm not an attorney, nor am I a part of this HOA, nor have I closely examined the covenants of this HOA that the city's not involved in.
So the HOA basically just said, y'all do what you want to do, City of Wilmington, and we want to stay out of it.
We see a lot of HOAs contact us about concerns because they're not able to get resolution, and a variety of reasons that violate city code, and it's our job to enforce that city code.
Thanks.
Mr. Joyner?
I just wanted to say to Ms. Bramble, thank you for coming tonight and speaking with us and giving us some context, because a lot of times people don't even come to these hearings, and I imagine it's not fun to have your business put out in front of people like this, so we really do appreciate you being here and giving us that context.
Mr. Umbar?
How many extensions has Ms. Bramble had since code enforcement with Wilmington started dealing with her?
So as you can see, we first inspected this case back in March of 2023. Around that time, we established communication. And because we weren't getting progress there, you see we scheduled a hearing in July of 2023, at which time Ms. Bramble was there. And we continued our conversations and efforts to try to resolve this issue. And then that extended all the way through January of this year. So you see in January, now we're here in March, which means we've, as Ms. Bramble alluded to, she's been in contact with Officer Sims, who's the primary officer on this case, and they've been with a little bit of phone tag, but also encouragement and also citations to try to motivate improvement. And we're here because we have not seen that.
Have you been in the house?
I took those photos.
Okay. since 2021 or 2023, I believe you said March of 23, is there any difference?
I would say that in March of '23, I was the only one that could get inside the house because you could not get the door all the way open. The officer could not even enter the house. I had to be the one to get in. I was walking on probably about waist deep pile of stuff. In March of this year, I would say it's decreased probably by a quarter of what it's at currently.
Okay. I don't even know what to ask you. I mean, this is just, we see Councilmember Barnett is very correct in it. We've not seen one exactly like this. However, we see situations where I always look not only at the people that are in front of us, I look at the neighbors. It's patently unfair for neighbors to have to live in the surroundings like that. And we have people that come down here and say they're going to get it done, and they do. And you always give us a recommendation, excuse me, because you work with them and you have a better feel for them than what we get here in 30-minute hearing. But I just don't see anything positive about this. I mean, the three ladies that came up here, the part about the, not only rats but squirrels get in and they do just as much damage as rats do. The fire hazard, just the sanitation. I mean, somebody needs to hire somebody to go in there tomorrow with a damn dump truck and just start hauling it out and get it cleared out and be done with it. So I don't know if we can do that or not, but that sure was where I come from.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Did you want to speak, sir? Public hearing is still open. Please state your name for the record and where you live.
My name is Bob Fannin. I am on the board of directors at Ashton. We have a management company, Blue Atlantic, and he's done a good job, but his hands are tied as far as what we can do, what's going on the inside of the property. My biggest concern, I'm a member at large, as Mr. Rivenbark said, the neighbors. I mean, can you imagine living next door to this? I'm going to camp out on the board of directors' front doorstep, and I'm going to be raising Cain. And we've got angels living next to her because, they have gone out of their way to accommodate this. But I've lived in there for 9 years. I've no longer live in Ashton. I'm an investor, and I'll tell you that, and I've also, can't prove this, she's going to sell it, but she doesn't have any intentions, to my knowledge, from what, as a realtor, I am a realtor, I've looked, there's not even a lien on it. She can sell it. It's not like she's underwater. I mean, let's just sell it, move on, let somebody go in there. We all know that'll happen. There's no need for them to be, for this condition, for neighbors to have to live under these conditions. I basically have just sat back here because y'all are doing a great job. I mean, I did come forward because if you have any questions, I'm here to, as far as the board, but we've addressed it the best we could. We have had issues trying to access, for termite inspections. She's not cooperated or not made it access, because we're there to help her, not to oppose anything. It's just, we're there to help. And, I'm here tonight because I feel for the neighbors that live on both sides of her. This needs to be addressed. Something needs to be done. She's been given multiple opportunities. This needs to be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council in respect to this, to item PH1. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Andrews, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Joyner, second by Councilmember Andrews. Discussion, Mr. Rivenbark.
Brian, what is this, I mean, I can read the directive here, like everybody else can. Tell me what the next steps are.
Our next steps are we're going to bid and contract out a company to go in and do a clean out and sanitation of this unit and then place a lien on the property.
And what kind of timeline are we looking at?
With the ordinance including, it's 10 days. That would give us time to prepare and schedule a bid process. Realistically, with purchasing and contracting, we're probably looking at around 30 days before I actually have somebody on site doing work, but that's going to take some coordination.
Thank you.
All in favor of the second motion,
Oh,
please?
wait. So I truly understand the position that the neighbors are in and wouldn't want to be a neighbor accompanying rats. But 10 days, this, and she's not underwater, she doesn't owe. And so the city's gonna come in, do this repair, and then we're gonna take a lien out for $26,000.
That's right.
Ms. Bramble, how old are you, ma'am? 75 years old.
Mr. Renner, you can talk right there in that microphone. You don't have to come up here. What is the, Mr. Spears had indicated, the number 26,000? What is that?
Yeah, that is our estimated cost to repair on this with cost of clean out. I've been in contact with a few different vendors. The lowest, just based on photos, was around $7,000. The highest, based on an actual site inspection, was $32,000. So this 25 is our best guess of what we think it's going to cost us to clean and sanitize this place. But yeah, and I would also like to note that the 10 days is in addition to the reasonable time already given, which again is council's purview. But statutorily, we've provided a reasonable time, in my opinion.
Yeah, but this is a 75-year-old lady with no family, and I mean, I get it. I'm not a fan of hoarding, but I mean, come on, 75-year-old lady with no family in this area, and we're gonna give her $10 days, and then we're gonna take out a lien. And I'm sorry, but the neighbors, y'all dealt with this for years. You said it yourself. So what's 180 days? What's 60 more days? What's 90 more days? And if nothing. And if nothing.
Ma'am, excuse me, out of order, just let him
And I asked the question. So that's not your fault. I did ask a question. But I would say this. If nothing happens in a period, if we extend 60 days, 90 days, and nothing happens, you'll get nothing from me when this thing comes back. It'll happen. I just think we have to be somewhat reasonable here. And maybe it's just me, but I can't really see it. 75 years, I wouldn't want my mother, my grandmother, or anyone that is a friend of mine to be in a situation like this, and we not use some sense of empathy as this governing board. That's just how I feel about it.
Yes, Ms. Andrews?
Ms. Bramble, you are living someplace other than this unit right now, is that correct? And my understanding is that this kind of problem is an illness, and that we're not going to fix it with any amount of time as far as giving extra time to clean this place out. And I really feel at this point that having the city do it is going to be doing you a favor. And you will be able to sell the property, and you will be able to move to Black Mountain or wherever you want to move, and you'll be able to move on. And your neighbors will have a cleaner house to live next to, and hopefully new neighbors. I think we're doing Ms. Bramble a favor by going ahead and doing this. I will tell you a personal story. I had a relative who had this problem, and My sister is the one who stepped forward and paid for the clean out, and a lot of people gave her a hard time for doing that, but it was the best thing she could have done. And I just really feel like this is going to help you move forward, and it would be doing you a favor, and it would certainly be doing your neighbors a favor. So I am in favor of moving forward with this.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, that fails for lack of a unanimous vote, so this will be brought back to our next meeting and will be voted on at that point in time. Thank you.
Do you all understand what he just told you?
Okay, let's go to item PH2, which is the ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair or demolish a dwelling at 1004 South 7th Street as unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. At this time, I'd like to recognize City Manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Renner will overview this item as well.
Good evening again. This house is 1004 South 7th Street. This is a 700 square foot house on South 7th Street. It was built in 1928. The property is vacant. This is heir property, though we do have a specific contact with some of the heirs, Lieutenant William Johnson being that contact. This is a view from South 7th Street. This property has a significant roof collapse, and then the floor system has also collapsed on the inside. This case started back in May of 2023. This is actually from an officer's observation, meaning that an officer was just in the neighborhood and he noticed the condition of the house and initiated the case. Again, the property is vacant. We took this to Housing Code hearing in August of 2023. Nobody attended, but we did have a written response from Ms. Johnson. That order expired in December of 2023, and we have not seen any progress to repair or demolish this house. This is the information that's within that findings of fact, showing that it is dilapidated by the city's minimum housing code, which means we're looking at a repair or demolish ordinance. These are the violations of the minimum housing code that are outlined within that findings of fact. And here's some photos of the house. We can see the significant collapse in the roof. Additional issues on the front porch. This is the back side of the house. This is on the inside of the house. The left side of the house is pretty much in a state of collapse, while the right side is not so much. But these are photos of the collapsing floor system and the collapsed roof. So what we're looking at on this one is, again, the authority to keep this building secured. And then we're also looking at 30 days for the owners to repair or demolish this dwelling. This definitely looks like a demolition project, and we would be looking to move forward with demolishing this after 30 days. I'm here if there's any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Renner? Yes, sir.
Have you heard any more from any family members or any heirs?
We have had contact with multiple conversations on and off. They've indicated that they intended to demolish the house, but we have not seen any action towards that, which is why we're here tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. This time I'd like to recognize the homeowner, they're here, or representative of the owner.
Good evening, Mayor Saffo, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, City of Wilmington employees, and City of Wilmington residents. I'm Vega Swepson. I'm a resident of the City of Durham, North Carolina, and I'm here to represent my mother. Although my formative years are here living in Wilmington, North Carolina, specifically at the address indicated for our discussion tonight. I do have a couple of points, and I guess at some point in time, I'll be directed on who those corrections need to go to in terms of when this property was built, because that is incorrect. 1004, as we in the family have fondly known it as, and my mother did send, as he indicated, a letter in talking about the different steps in terms of what we were going to attempt to do for the next 6 to 9 months. This property has been a fixture in that neighborhood, and if you could possibly imagine memories that were created in this home that took place, especially when it came to friends and family who gathered there for the past 75 years. So we prepared to start renovations the first of last year. We contracted with Blueprint Roofing and Repairs. Unfortunately, they contacted us with some pretty bad news. We had no idea. So we fast forward to August of last year. My mother submitted a timeline, 6 to 9 months, indicating some things that we had been informed we should do in terms of repair. We were in communication with Mr. Patterson, Register of the City, but something that our family neglected to do was to first start with the legal aspect in terms of the deed. So that has taken a significant amount of time. We have completed that first deed transfer, and we are engaged with Ned Barnes, attorney at law in Carolina Beach. He has been our counsel for the first deed transfer. Well, unfortunately, we have not seen any indication through the court that that first deed transfer has been completed. We're now on we've already submitted our second deed transfer, so I contacted Mr. Barnes's office, and his administrator said that she would check into what happened with that. So, as I indicated, my mother submitted the letter with the timeline for 6 to 9 months. And since that time, we have been in contact with Mr. Patterson from your office. He gave us a recommendation on some next steps aligned with what we submitted for repairs. We contacted a construction company. They did an assessment. Actually, we've had 2 to do an assessment. And they made some recommendations that the property could, in fact, believe it or not, could in fact sustain some renovations. We recently, in recent weeks, came to Wilmington and went to the zoning department, had a conversation with Ms. Bentley Ernest in planning and zoning to look at or to just get more follow-up information around the renovation and to see how we could bring this back into code. So once we've gotten all this assessment information, recommendations from professionals around construction, around the zoning piece, we, our family, however, have decided that it is in our best interest to demolish the property. So to that end, we are requesting a reasonable timeline to secure companies to identify the cost for this to happen, and to also make sure that we are in compliance with the regulations for the city on how that process will take place and how long we'll be allowed to work to implement that. Thank you.
Do you know, do you have a time frame as to how much time you need?
Because there are multiple family members and there's a second deed transfer, 100 to 120 to 180 days.
Okay. All right.
Question on
Mr.
that.
Barnett?
And that's to you, maybe to the staff.
I'm sorry?
It may, not directly to you, I'll ask the staff. With 120 days, she said 120 days. That's
120 to 180 days.
Okay. Isn't that dangerous? I mean, looking at the building right now, what do you think, staff?
I have concerns about the condition of the building because I think that in the next 120 days, the roof's going to continue to collapse. And its proximity to the neighboring house is obviously a concern, which was outlined within the findings of fact as well that we did at the hearing back in August.
Absolutely. And I understand you're asking for 120 days because there's still some, I don't call it discrepancies, but maybe there's still it hasn't been settled who owns the property yet? Is that it?
We did the first deed transfer, and now we're doing a second one. And as I indicated, the first deed transfer is not reflecting in your court system. And we've already submitted and had it signed for another deed transfer to the person who will, in fact, own the property.
So your first deed,
Transfer was done last year.
And
And
you-
when we came to zoning and planning a few weeks back, that's when we discovered the paperwork still indicated that it was in my grandfather's name.
and so because it's in your grandfather's name,
The
You all
first deed
can't-
transfer was supposed to be to his daughter. The second deed transfer to the next family member has been submitted, but we're still seeing his name on the documents in planning and zoning. So I'm not,
but that's not the reason that, is that the reason that you say you can't demolish it? Because,
well, we wanted the person that the deed is going to be in to handle that, the financial piece of that.
so you want somebody to pay for it?
The person who's going to be the owner of the property.
Okay, but you don't know that, you don't know how long it's gonna take before that dust is settled?
I don't.
Okay, so then, staff, if we demolish it, let's say in 30 days, then would, whatever it costs to demolish it or whatever, would that go to the person that will be getting the deed later?
So yeah, any action we take would be placed as a lien upon the property and would be handled upon transfer of title. And realistically, we would probably not have an excavator on site on day 31, just in terms of contracting bids and all of the purchasing requirements that we have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Rodenbach?
Ma'am, thank you for coming down. I'm looking in the tax records, and it shows that in September of '23, the property was transferred from Ezekiel Williams to Miss Luthelma Williams. But apparently, it hasn't been, I mean, a contract's a contract, but it needs to be recorded at the Register of Deeds. That's what you're saying hadn't been done?
That's what we don't see, at least from the zoning documents, it's not showing that. And obviously, you have something more up to date.
Well, I'm just looking at New Hanover County tax records, but that would be, if Ned Barnes is your attorney, I mean, that could be done. You know, I mean, he could go down and record that. Probably should have been done. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but you can see where it changed ownership in September of '23 from, I guess that's your grandfather, Ezekiel?
Right.
To Luthelma
Right.
Williams? And
Right.
who is that lady?
Right, that's my mother.
That's your mother. So it's going to, it's, your plan is to change, it's going to be deeded another time to someone else?
We've already submitted, that document she's already signed and had it
Okay.
notarized, and so that Mr. Barnes and his office will do what they need to do with that document.
And who is that person?
The next person that's going to be deeded, that's going to be James Luther Johnson III.
Okay, and that's your brother?
Yes.
Okay, James Luther Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, and y'all are in the process of doing that now?
Well, at this point, I guess Mr. Barnes' office will be taking care of that part. I think my mother's, you know, she's handled her part. She's already submitted that. It's been notarized. She signed it.
Sure.
So now it'll be whatever those steps are from Mr. Barnes' office.
Okay, so the family's part has been done. It's now up to Mr. Barnes to take that and record it, but y'all are in the process of doing that now. I mean, that's, you don't need 20 or 40 or 60 days to get that done.
No, not for the legal part.
Right, so
No.
once it goes into Mr. Johnson's name, then he's going to be the responsible party because he'll be the owner of record.
Sure.
And then he can contract with a company to do the demolition. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Spears?
There aren't any financial burdens that are preventing this demolition from taking place, right?
So now that would be Mr. Johnson who would have to answer that.
But you said, you know, you were in preparation to demolish.
That's what, well, the family unit has agreed to, including Mr. Johnson.
Right.
But his financial situation, I dare not speak to
Right.
how fast that will be. And then we're communicating with him because he's out of the country, so, he works out of the country, so.
Okay, I just don't want you to be taken by surprise if this thing goes forward and the city demolishes it. You listen to the previous situation, you know, if the city does the work, the lien goes against the property. And so if that becomes whoever owns the property will carry the burden of that lien.
So we're hopeful that some time will be given into consideration for Mr. Johnson, since in the future he will be the owner of the property. To
Mr. Johnson ain't the owner of the property. He's out the country. We talking to you.
I'm the representative of the family.
I'm just trying to make sure that you
I
understand.
hear you, but yeah, I'm representing, since it's my mother right now, just representing her. But some time will be allowed for him to do due diligence to identify, do the research here locally who can do that work, so that there won't be a lien on the property.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Renner, this question is for our staff. In regards to the demolition, I would imagine that you have a number of companies that we contact for this type of work. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I believe Officer Registers provided that contact information for our vendors.
Because I don't know how many companies are out there that do this kind of work. Do you know, sir? I mean,
There are several local companies that are approved city vendors that we contact for demolition projects.
Okay. And in this project of this size, usually 760 square feet, probably could be done in what, a day, 2 days?
Yeah, I imagine this would be done in one day. We would, just for process-wise, we would do an asbestos test, and then depending on that test, that would obviously impact the cost of the demolition if there was asbestos or not.
Okay. And on this particular one, before you brought it to council, did you put it out for 3 bids?
We do not start the bid process typically until council approves an ordinance.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? So, Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, so you're here today to ask us to give you some more time so that you and your brother can get enough money to knock it down?
To identify a company to do the work that may be better priced than what may come from the city, in terms of the lien piece especially.
Okay, and I guess the challenge I have is then it puts everybody else in jeopardy while you're going to tear it down, and while you guys are waiting to, I guess, determine when your brother's going to have enough resources to tear it down.
So initially, we were looking to do the renovation and repairs.
Right.
But even with the professional recommendations that it could be repaired, is what we were told.
Right.
But there's been a family vote, if you will, that we
just tear it down.
I most certainly don't want to put anybody's homestead or life in danger. I don't know if there's an opportunity or a way to, I don't want to say put a Band-Aid on or a temporary fix to prevent any construction issues to take place.
But you guys haven't done that at all.
I'm sorry?
You haven't done that at all. Like, you haven't tried.
We have been in, we've met with the construction professionals about their recommendation. That's what we were working on in addition to the legal aspect. But in terms of any starting of construction and that sort of thing, no.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you coming down.
Okay. Okay.
Brian, let me ask you a quick question. Is there a way that this structure can be secured for 120 to 180 days without the neighbors being in harm's way?
I'm not a contractor, so I can't really answer that, but my professional opinion. My unofficial professional opinion is that I can't feasibly see a way without significant work.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on item PH2, if they'll come forward and state their name for the record and where they live. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, have you received any additional comments?
No, sir.
Are there any further questions from council? Yes, sir, Mr. Barnett.
If we approve this recommendation, then what we're saying that is in 30 days, we will initiate tearing it down?
Yeah, at the expiration of that timeline provided by City Council, it authorizes the housing inspector, which is me and my office, to move forward with actions on the property that include demolition. So to answer your question shortly, yes, we would start the demolition process in terms of asbestos testing, bidding, and moving forward accordingly.
Okay, but at that 30-day period, if they came back to us and said, okay, we got something else to do or whatever, could we extend it then or what?
If the family was moving forward with action, we would obviously look to preserve the taxpayers' money and allow them to take care of it. So those conversations do not stop after this ordinance on all of our cases.
So the ordinance basically is an opportunity to put some fire under the family so that they can really get to the brother and everybody come together and do something. Is that what we're trying to do?
Correct. This provides, again, accountability and the city in a position to take care of a public health and safety issue should the family not resolve it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of the council. We have a motion to approve by Councilman Waddell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Waddell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes, fails for lack of a unanimous vote, so we'll hold it back for, see this in 2 weeks. Okay? That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH3, which is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city of Wilmington to rezone property located at 3933 Princess Place Drive from R10 medium density single dwelling district to O and I office and institutional district. This time I'd like to recognize the city manager, Mr. Carter.
Good.
Ghost from the past. Mr. Mayor, items PH3 and PH4 will be companion items. PH4 will not need action if council denies PH3. Just wanted to give you that heads up going forward. Tonight, Catherine Thurston, our zoning administrator, will review this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. The request before you this evening is for a general rezoning of property located at 3933 Princess Place Drive. The subject property consists of approximately 0.8 of an acre and is currently zoned R10 residential. The site contains a decommissioned city fire station that's been vacant since 2019. In 2021, City Council approved the transfer of this property to the applicant, Frankie Roberts, with Leading into New Communities, or LINK, Inc. LINK is a nonprofit organization based in Wilmington that's dedicated to assisting individuals re-entering the community following incarceration with finding housing, employment, and other support services. Though this request is a general rezoning, one of the requirements of the transfer of the property is that it must be used for an approved public purpose. The proposed use of this property is for a group home residential that will allow Link to adaptively reuse the existing building for housing and education for approximately 12 African American youth, ages 15 to 24, recently released from the justice system. Each student would complete a 14-month term, during which time they would earn their graduate equivalency degree and learn necessary life skills so that they can be contributing members of the community. The facility would be staffed 24/7. The current R10 zoning does not allow group home residential uses, so the applicant has proposed to rezone the property to office and institutional and request a special use permit to allow the use. The site is bounded by R10 to the north and the east, multifamily to the west, and office and institutional to the south. These photos show the current conditions of the surrounding area. The upper left-hand photo is looking east towards Sun Air Court and Market Street. Below that is from the opposite direction down Princess Place Drive to the west towards Greendale Avenue. The photo on the bottom right shows Barclay Hills Drive looking north, and the upper right photo is looking south down Barclay Hills Drive towards Market Street. This location is well situated for pedestrian activity with sidewalks on both sides of Princess Place Drive and along Barclay Hills Drive. The site's convenient to public transportation with stops along Princess Place and Market Streets, and it's in close proximity to many necessary services. The site's adjacent to a high-density transition area of opportunity and is in an urban mixed-use center. The Growth Strategies map has identified this area as one with great potential to accommodate growth, infill, and redevelopment. Though many of the policies outlined in the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan support this proposed rezoning, the plan focuses on partnering with other agencies and organizations to provide affordable housing and support services, encouraging job training and life skills for youth, and maximizing the use of sites that are near existing transit services to be well supported by the request. On March 6, 2024, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this request and recommended unanimous approval. Staff believes this proposal is consistent with the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and also recommends approval. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of staff, and Frankie Roberts with Link Inc. is also present to provide additional information on the proposed use.
Okay, are there any questions from Ms. Thurston? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Thurston.
Thank you.
This time, I'd like to recognize the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Frankie Roberts, I am the Executive Director of Leading into New Communities. We are a 22-year-old organization, and here in Wilmington, we provide support services for people transitioning from prison to community, and we also provide youth development for youth 12 to 30. And with this use, we are calling it's a boarding school. We're calling it the Hassan Pope Transformation Academy. Just covered our history. Our light program started in 2007, and we have provided support to young men primarily, but recently we work in 3 local middle schools, DC Virgo, Williston, and actually one high school, John T. Hargett, where we provide support for Tier 3 students, and Tier 3 students are students that's got an IEP or a 504. Just a little bit about Hassan Pope. He was one of our first participants. Unfortunately, he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and his life was taken October the 19th, 2014, due to gun violence. And so we thought it was a good memorial for Hassan Pope because he was never a troublemaker. He was an entrepreneur. And so we decided to name the school after this gentleman based on what we were attempting to accomplish. Our vision is we will be housing 15 to 18-year-old young men who have dropped out of school. The goal would be within that 14-month period, we will ensure the individuals get a high school diploma, as well as get a construction or a technology trade. They will alternate either half days of academics and the other half days of light construction training or technology, or we'll do every other day. Some of the community benefits is we're going to do community service, which means neighbors in that area. We will do their yards free of charge as job training. Certainly our goal is to restore the positive influence of young black males, revitalize the area as much as we can, restore trust, and above all, supporting young men in becoming the leaders in communities that we believe and see that they can be. Prevention methods of interaction of negative influences, and it'll be a safe space for young men. These are the concepts. We have already got the architect, we've got the drawings done. We have now have the funding secure, and with your support, and first of all, thank you for donating this to us, and we're ready to go.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Roberts? Okay. Mr. Spears?
Mr. Roberts, I won't even pretend not to know you or not to know your history in this community, and I won't even pretend like you're not a mentor of mine. I've had some conversations concerning the boarding school, and some people from the community have spoken about safety concerns. And in the initial presentation brought by staff, Ms. Thurston said 15 to 24, but you just said 15 to 18.
It's 15 to 18.
Right, and I would.
It was initially 16 to 18, but Judge Corpman convinced us to go to 15.
But we have a history of that 15
Yes.
to 24 range, and we know that's a lot goes on there from 15 to 24. So it is more calming.
High school age, yes.
Right, to say 15 to 18, and you know, when you speak of the things that you'll do in the community, you know, maintaining grass as job training for, you know, beautification and you know, a sense of confidence and implementation into the community, a part of a cohesiveness,
Yes.
for lack of a better terms. And you know, I just want to speak on things because I don't want to be hypocritical, because I was definitely in support of us donating this fire station to you in the beginning, and it would go off without a hitch tonight had I not gotten concerns from people in the community, you know, because every day we see something concerning this age demographic in our community, and also the aspect of, it seems like historically black communities are becoming the hub for fixes in society. And I'll be honest, black neighbors are concerned about that. They feel like if there's just a move, a transition for everything that's going on for the cure to take place in our community, where you don't see this happen in other communities because other communities wouldn't allow it. So I guess I'm asking you what confidence, you know, what can you tell me and what can you tell the neighbors of this community, because they're watching. I know they're watching because they call me and tell me they're watching. And there's some younger residents from the community that are paying attention as well, and they want to know, you know, that they're going to continue to be safe. You know, that their community is not going to be disturbed or disrupted because of this boarding school. So,
Sure. So the first thing is, I am them and they are me. Those young men, unfortunately, went to a academy in my own community, in my upbringing, K through 8th, before I went to public school. And that would built the foundation of me being a better, the best me that I can be. We have 24/7 support at this boarding school. And so I am extremely confident, and based on our history is being able, I'm gonna use the word, when you're 15 and 18, it's obviously better to build a boy than to mend a man, because building a boy is a one-step process. Most of the young men that we're talking about didn't have that opportunity. So we're gonna be in the mending business, which is a two-step process that we've been doing for years, and we have been good at it. And so, yeah, we at one point ran a youth build program, which is with the same demographic, only it included females. It was a construction program that provided leadership, provided education, and it was extremely successful. I see some of those young people even today. And I can only speak for, I think it is our responsibility in our community to support and build positive, strong leaders in the community. And that's what we stand to do with you all support. And I'm confident when we had our community meeting, we felt like the neighbors who we will have interview panel, and that the neighbors in that community would be a part of. And so, because we know we are visitors, but we are coming in and being a part of that community and allowing them to, actually demanding them to be a part of it, because it won't be successful if they're not.
Yeah. Are you, I love the program. Okay. I'm fully supporting it. And I just want to know, are you partnering with like Cape Fear Community College?
Yes, they will be providing the academic and construction portion of the program.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And I need not tell you how desperately we need programs like this. You know, we need our boys to see us and to see us doing the things that you guys will be able to do. You know, so I'm definitely in favor of it, and I don't think you'll have any problems with the neighbors.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
Thank
you, Frankie. This time, open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on item PH3. If they'll please come forward, state their name for the record and where they live. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary that you want to share?
No, sir. No, sir, I have not.
Okay. Are there any further questions from council? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing, ask for the wishes of council, and I will also note that whoever makes the motion must read a consistency statement for the record. And we have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears.
I move to approve the proposed amendment to rezone property located at 3933 Princess Place Drive from R10 Residential District to ONI Office and Institutional District, and finding to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan, based on the application material and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and to find approval of the rezoning request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning will facilitate the adaptive reuse of an existing structure for a public purpose in an area that is prominent to commercial services and served by existing infrastructure.
Okay. All ready to vote? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilman Ravenmark, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item, which is item PH4, which is a resolution granting or denying a special use permit for the property located at 3933 Princess Place Drive for Link Incorporated to operate a group home residential in the office and institutional O&I district. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, and I will note that all persons wishing to speak, including staff and the applicant, must be sworn in by the city clerk, Penelope Spicer Sidbury, at this time. Excuse me, each one of you could please come to the microphone. At this time, I'm going to have to ask the parties to please introduce themselves to the council and explain their interests to decide who has standing, and then this council must take a vote. Mr. Chambers, could you please come up back here? You're the individuals that have been sworn in at this time.
Catherine Thurston, zoning administrator for the city of Wilmington and staff lead on this item.
Frankie Roberts, Leading into New Communities Executive Director.
Okay. Mr. Chambers.
Brian Chambers, Assistant Director, Planning and Development Department.
Okay. At this time, we'll take a vote to make certain that all three of these individuals have been qualified or explain their position. Okay. All in favor of that motion? If anybody's going to make a motion, so move. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Joyner, second by Councilmember Spears, to accept these three individuals to speak. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All speakers have been now allowed to speak. At this time, I'd like to recognize the applicant for the presentation.
It would be the same one.
Unfortunately, Mr. Roberts, you're going to pretty much have to give it again. Mr. Roberts, over here.
Okay, I got it.
You're
I
pretty
can
much
do
going to
that.
have to give it again for this hearing.
Since this is a quasi-judicial, Frankie, we'll have to go through this whole
Sure,
process
no
one more time.
problem.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I'm Frankie Roberts, Executive Director, Leading into New Communities, a 22-year-old organization. And we are proposing to do a boarding school, which is the Hassan J. Pope Transformation Academy. Our history, as we've been around again, is for 24 years. Most of our work is around providing support for individuals transitioning from prison to the community. We also established a youth program back in 2007 and working primarily with African-American males 16 to 24. Today, we are now working as young as 12 years old to about 30 years old. We're working also in 3 local middle schools, 2 local middle schools, DC Virgo, Williston, and John T. Hargett, working with Tier 3 students. And those are the students that got an IEP or a 504 or a combination of the two. Our light program, as I just said, is continuing to expand, and we are looking to now expand it to a boarding school. And with the boarding school name will be named after Hassan Pope, which was one of our first participants, who was an entrepreneur and unfortunately lost his life on the 19th of October, 2014. He unfortunately was in the wrong place at the, could have been at the right place because he was in his neighborhood at the wrong time. Our vision is to work with 15 to 18-year-olds, and there is a caveat if that 18-year-old turns 19, certainly we wouldn't throw them out the program, but it's 15 to 18-year-olds, but they must be 15 to 18 at the entry to the program. 50% of the classroom will be classroom GED prep. The other 50% will be construction training as well as technology training, that it would include leadership, education, case management, counseling, and career development. Some of the community benefits would certainly be we would be doing community service projects in the neighborhood, doing people's yards, be a positive influence in other young men in the community, do our part in revitalizing and restoring neighborhoods, certainly supporting young men to be strong leaders and becoming productive members, preventing interaction with negative influence, and it would be a safe space for young men. And this is kind of our concept. We've already gotten the architect drawings done. We're ready to go. Got the money in place to do the renovation, and we need your support to say, let's go. And this would obviously turn young men's setbacks into comebacks. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts, do you have any additional witnesses, experts that want to testify?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Frankie. You said you're ready to go. What's the time frame? Do you have a time frame?
I would say within the next 30 days, we're going to put out a proposal request for qualifications from a general contractor, and I would say we will start the renovation process in the next 90 days and be finished by next year this time.
All right.
If
Thank
not
you, sir.
sooner.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Madam?
Mr. Roberts, if you don't mind, just to make sure we check off all the boxes for the hearing, would you mind going back over, because one of the findings that council has to make is regarding the public health and safety. So for the purpose of this hearing, would you mind kind of recapping why you feel like this is not going to endanger public health or safety?
We believe it's not, because we will have the campus secure 24/7. It would always be 2 staff working, so that would be 1 staff per 6 individuals. And yeah, they will be confined to the campus. They would never leave unsupervised. And yeah, in fact, we think that it would improve the safety in that area.
And just real briefly, council also has to find that the use is not going to, is either a public necessity or won't substantially injure the values of adjoining property. I know you don't have anybody to testify about property value, but why do you feel like this is a public necessity, your program?
Oh, man. I was going to say pretty much some of the misguided teens that we have seen in the communities lately. There is really no programs that provides that type of support that is structured, that almost ensures their success. So we believe that it's a necessity in our community is because these are some of the same individuals that we hear parents say, man, I can't do nothing with him. And so we are standing in the gap for those folks, for those parents. You know, one of the things about a boarding school is what I used to learn is, I said, man, how you get to go to a boarding school? He said, well, man, my parents got money. Because typically people with money send their kids to boarding schools. So we have a boarding school because parents don't have the time because they're working 2 and 3 jobs. So same concept and same construct, so that's why.
Thank you. And one more, can you talk a little bit more, and you mentioned this in the previous hearing, but how this, the location and the character of what you're going to do is going to be harmonious with the community, and why you, and the community involvement that's going to be go along with this?
So, you know, it would be great if we can turn these 12 guys into firemen like this, because this was a fire station. And we are going to make the, have the residents, because it's a historic neighborhood right that butts up against this, they will be a part of the panel before we accept any individual. They would have a say on who we accept. And if the community is not accepting, then we are not going to be accepted. And so since we are visitors there, we thought it was instrumental and clear that we needed the residents to be a part of that.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have. I believe that staff will address the other finding, which is just that it meets all the required conditions and specifications for the code.
Mr. Spears, you had a question, sir?
So, Brother Frank, I got a suggestion.
Yes.
I have a couple suggestions, actually. So, when you talk about cutting grass, it just came to me based upon the previous agenda items that we dealt with, and the issues that we face in these communities outside of cutting grass, because you did speak of construction, you could potentially have these young men to do small structural repairs in this community, if need be, in addition to cutting grass. And then my other suggestion would be to add a third adult person to staff in that 24/7 time frame, because you said one person per 6.
Right.
And you know, these 15 to 18-year-olds are different than the 15 to 18-year-olds that we have experienced previously in your 22, 24-year career.
We could do that. That's not a problem.
So I think that would be a little more helpful, because it is, you know, sometimes you can be overwhelmed.
That's correct.
I've had some interactions here of late that I've never experienced with young people before, and it's testing.
Yes.
It make you do a little bit of soul searching. So that I would just like to offer those suggestions, and also I wanted to say this before, but in the past few months, what the work that Link does and the direction that you and staff have taken Link, even though you have people who support you out in the open, some of the work is disturbing to others because they don't truly understand. And I've had to defend it. And again, I don't want to be hypocritical, because when we advocate for things like this, we understand that if a person messes up at a young age, or even at an older age, once they've paid their debt to society and have make an attempt to come back, it's very important to their success to come back to something. And so this is a part of being able to come back to something, compared to coming back to nothing and then being another issue that the city of Wilmington is facing in being homeless.
Yes.
Or having crime. So I just wanted to put that out there, and hopefully this thing works out, and the aspect of having the community to be on the panel, and please, if you go out to that community and you're not getting the participation that's needed, just continue to go out and implore them to come and be on that panel, because then they truly have a say in who goes into this boarding school and who they're neighboring with. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Reinbart?
It's hard to believe that we've known each other for 31 years, but I've watched Frankie do all the things that he's done, not just Link, going back before Link. And I can for whatever my word is good for, I know that you don't know what failure is, and I know that this is going to be a success. And when we deeded that fire station to you, I've been waiting, and now it's coming true tonight, and I'm looking forward to that and continued success. And these young men want to be there.
Yes.
Nobody's put them there. They want to be there, and that goes a long ways towards their success. So good luck.
Thank you for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. This time I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Ms. Thurston will overview this item on the staff behalf as well.
Thank you, sir. We're judicial now. I'm the judge.
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. As stated by the city manager, this is a companion item to the general rezoning for 3933 Princess Place Drive. That was just considered and approved on the first reading, and I'm just going to apologize again for the redundancy, but as our attorney pointed out, the same information from the legislative hearing for the rezoning has to be presented into evidence again for the quasi-judicial hearing. But I'll try to go through it as quickly as I can. The subject property consists of approximately 0.8 of an acre and contains a decommissioned city fire station that has been vacant since 2019. In 2021, City Council approved the transfer of the property to the applicant, Mr. Roberts, with Leading into New Communities, or LINK Inc. One of the requirements of the transfer of the property is it must be used for an approved public purpose. LINK is a nonprofit organization based in Wilmington dedicated to assisting individuals re-entering the community following incarceration with finding housing, employment, and other support services. LINK has proposed to adaptively reuse the existing building for housing and education for approximately 12 African American youth, ages 15 to 18 at the time of entry. Each student would complete a 14-month term, during which time they would earn their graduate equivalency degree and learn necessary life skills so that they can be contributing members of the community. This facility would be staffed 24/7. The Land Development Code classifies this use as a group home residential, which was not a permitted use under the prior R10 zone, which is why it was important for the applicant to rezone the property to office and institutional prior to requesting the special use permit. This site is bounded by R10 to the north and the east, multifamily to the west, and office and institutional to the south. These photos show the current conditions of the surrounding area. This location is well situated for pedestrian activity with sidewalks on both sides of Princess Place Drive and also along Barclay Hills Drive. The site's convenient to public transportation with stops along Princess Place Drive and Market Street, and it's in close proximity to many necessary services. Reuse of the existing structure means that few exterior site changes will be required. However, the applicant attended a pre-TRC hearing with city staff on February 1st, 2024, and has demonstrated the ability to comply with the special use prerequisites and the technical standards of the code with modifications that have been provided by staff and comments following the meeting. Here are the building elevations that were provided by the applicant. Most of the changes will be internal to the structure and will be reviewed by New Hanover County for building code compliance. The site is adjacent to a high-density transition area of opportunity, and it's in an urban mixed-use center. The growth strategies map has identified this area as one with great potential to accommodate growth, infill, and redevelopment. Though many of the policies outlined in the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan support this proposed rezoning, the plans focus on partnering with other agencies and organizations to provide affordable housing and support services, encouraging job training and life skills for youth, and maximizing the use of sites that are in close proximity to existing transit services is well supported by this request. Since this is an evidentiary hearing based solely on the testimony presented as part of this presentation, there's no recommendation from Planning Commission or city staff on this item. In granting this request, City Council will need to find that the following facts have been made: that the use, and our city attorney has gone over many of these, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety, that it meets all of the required conditions and specifications, that it will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity, and that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted, will be in harmony with the area in which it's to be located and in general conformity with the adopted comprehensive plans, the CAMA plan, and adopted special area plans. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of city staff, and the applicant is available as well.
Do we have any questions for Catherine? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any further questions from council? Okay. I'm going to close the quasi-judicial hearing and ask for the wishes of council.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
You may.
Before you on the dais, whoever makes the motion, it's not your typical consistency statement. It would be a motion to either approve or deny the SUP. You should all have them. The motion to approve is on top. Whoever makes that motion would need to read basically this front page. I know it's a lot of writing, but these would be the findings of fact that we just discussed. And I would mention at the bottom, it says, subject to the conditions set forth in the resolution. And based on the discussion previously, my understanding is that from Mr. Spears is that there would be a desire to change condition number 4 to reflect an age of 15 to 18 as opposed to 15 to 24 if the applicant would accept that. And he indicated that he would. So that would be the only change, subject to the conditions, with the exception of changing it from 15 to 24 to 15 to 18. Is that accurate, Mr. Spears? If whoever makes the motion wanted to do that as well.
Okay, we have a motion. Councilman Reinbark, second by Councilmember Andrews. Mr. Reinbark, will you please?
This page, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Based upon the findings of fact listed in the resolution and all other relevant competent material evidence presented in this hearing, City Council draws the following conclusions as required by Section 18589 DA of the City of Wilmington Land Development Code. 1, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved by the issuance of the special use permit. And number 2, the use meets all required conditions and specifications. And number 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or the use is a public necessity. And number 4, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the adopted comprehensive plan, the CAMA plan, and any adopted special area plans. Therefore, because the City Council concludes that all general and specific conditions required for the issuance of a special use permit have been satisfied, I make a motion that it be ordered that the application for the issuance of a special use permit be granted subject to the conditions set forth in the resolution as recommended by staff. Do I need to mention the?
With the exception that condition number 4 be changed
Right.
to a 15 to 18 age
With the
limit.
exception that condition number 4 be changed to read from ages 15 to 18.
We okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all ready to vote? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is
You only
there-
have to have one. It's a
That's right.
resolution.
Thank you, madam. Okay.
But now we're ready to move into our ordinances. Item ordinance 01 is an ordinance transferring $25,000 in funding from the general fund to the Streets and Sidewalks Capital Project Fund for the rail rearrangement project. All right. Yes, sir. City
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Aubrey Parsley, our Assistant to the City Manager for Economic Development, will overview this item.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members
you,
of
sir.
council. The ordinance before you tonight is not a request to increase the total funding currently assigned to the project. It is, however, a request to move money associated with the project from one fund type, the general fund, to another fund type, basically between accounts, which is the Special Projects Fund. The transfer of money between these fund types always requires council approval. In this instance, the transference request before you tonight requests transferring $25,000 between these fund types. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Are there any questions from council? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
There being no questions, I'll ask the council your wishes to call for a vote of first reading on the item. Okay, and I see that Councilman Waddell has motion for approval and second by Councilwoman Salat. All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye. All ready to vote? All right, thank you. Then I'll ask the council for wishes to call for a motion to waive second reading of ordinance number 1. I've got a motion by Councilmember Andrews, seconded by Councilmember Ludell. Ready to vote? All in favor, please vote. Okay, and it passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next item of business is item 202A. It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety for a grant in the amount of $600,000 for the continuation of the opioid overdose intervention program. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, items O2A and O2B on the next page are companion items. O2A does exactly what you just said, which authorizes the manager to enter into the agreement. O2B is the ordinance that appropriates the funds accordingly. Chad McEwen, our Deputy City Manager, will overview this item for us.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, members of City Council. As Mr. Caudle just mentioned, these items are companion items, but prior to discussing and considering these items, we'd ask for you to indulge us for a brief presentation by Mr. Jason Black, who is with Coastal Horizon. Mr. Black has been the project manager for the QRT program that's been part of the opioid intervention program. So.
Okay. Mr. Black.
I don't have to lower it. Thank y'all for your time. We really appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve the community with this funding and this team. So my name's Jason Black. I'm the program director for the Quick Response Team at Coastal Horizons. Quick Response Team began in July of 2018 as a pilot program for New Hanover County. The Coastal Horizons operates in Wilmington to engage overdose survivors, those who are at high risk of overdose, and those close to them. Our mission is to connect overdose survivors to treatment and to recovery resources. We also want to help overdose survivors to be safer. We want to help them and those who are close to them to feel supported. We also want to ensure that there's no financial barriers to accessing treatment and reduce any other barriers that might come up. We meet clients where they are, transport them to treatment, all those kind of things. The Quick Response Team was previously funded as a pilot program by the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. New Hanover County and the City of Wilmington were awarded 2 rounds of funding in 2017. From 2017 to 2019, it was $500,000, and from 2021 to 2023, it was $750,000. That extra $250,000 covered that nice happy gap year that we had. Coastal Horizons Quick Response Team is comprised of peer support specialists who have lived experience with substance use and or mental health issues, and licensed therapists who are trained in evidence-based interventions. Our peer support specialists connect with the clients and build the rapport, while the licensed therapists get them linked appropriately and assessed appropriately to the treatment that they need. We are big on the rapport building. This team has a heart for the people that they work with. And want to make sure that we're keeping people alive so that they can recover and become productive members of our community. 1,126 overdose survivors have been connected to treatment since the beginning of the program. That's 17.3 people connected to treatment each month. That comes out to a total of $1,110 per person we're connecting to treatment. When you look at the research across national studies, it's tens of thousands of dollars in medical, legal, and social costs when overdose survivors aren't engaged in treatment. So we're providing the community a large savings by utilizing this funding. For fiscal year 2018 to 2019, we were able to meet with 159 individuals and connect 128 of them to treatment, giving us an 80% engagement rate. Since that time, that rate has stayed pretty consistent. 2019 was 85.79, 2020 was 94.95, 2021 was 78.71, 2022 was 88.66, and 2023 was 83.76. Of the 1,126 people that we connected to treatment, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge those people that did die due to a subsequent overdose. If you look at the statistics, it's 17 lives that we lost. Overall, that's 1.5% of the people that we connected to treatment that died to a subsequent overdose, meaning that 98.5% of the people continued to live and thrive after their connection. We also provide outreach efforts, not just connecting people to treatment, but we also do community Narcan trainings. We table at community events to provide education to the community, flyers, canvassing. We are out there, the peers are out there in the community, making sure that the community knows that we're there and knows what the resources for people that they're concerned with are. Coastal Horizons in general is uniquely positioned to ensure that overdose survivors are linked to treatment. While QRT provides linkage to treatment services utilizing our peers and licensed clinicians, Coastal Horizons offers other services that make sure that we have all the wraparound that people will need. Medication-assisted treatment, including Suboxone and methadone daily dispensing, office-based opioid treatment, outpatient treatment, including substance abuse intensive outpatient therapy, outpatient group therapy, individual therapy, our recovery house placement programs. Our newest program is the Opioid Recovery House Project, the HEARTS program, primary care, and our other continuum of services. Over the course of the last 50 years, Coastal Horizons has been able to connect to other providers in the area. We want to ensure that clients have autonomy in the service that they choose. So we are working with them to find the best fit for the services that they're looking for. These are just some of the providers that we've linked to, both outside of the Tri-County area and within Wilmington. So where do we go from here? With the third round of funding being approved for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25, we as an organization and as the team are grateful for the opportunity to continue to provide this essential service to Wilmington. We're committed to maintaining the accountability to the community and to our partners. We maintain ongoing data collection, and we have guidance on a quarterly basis from our advisory board, who are parts of the organizations listed here. I'd like to welcome any questions from the council.
Okay. I see Councilman Waddell.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
I serve on the Opioid Settlement Committee, the Joint Opioid Settlement Committee with the two New Hanover County Commissioners, and I heard some shocking data, and I just want to make sure it's consistent. You and your team are out there in the field and see if it's consistent with the data that you've received, that opioid overdoses and related deaths are 3 times the national average in New Hanover County. Is that your understanding?
That is the data that we've received, yes, sir.
And then you are recipient, Coastal Horizons is certainly a recipient of some of this opioid settlement funding, which is outside of what I believe, the grant that we're discussing here today, but will the QRT also be included in some of that funding?
The QRT team is exclusive to QRT. Our peers are 100% funded by this program.
Okay.
We listed the wraparound services after discussing it with the advisory board to explain that while QRT's goal is connecting people to treatment, the opioid funds that we are receiving from the county and other places are the treatment itself. So the Opioid Recovery Housing Project, our expansion of MAT services, those kind of things. QRT's main goal is not to link people to Coastal Horizons, but to link people to treatment, whether that's detox, whether that's going to another MAT provider, whether that's a private provider if they have insurance. Our goal is to make sure that people don't feel pressured to go in any one direction, and rather to go to treatment or get recovery resources. We are there to link them in whatever they deem as their need.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. David?
I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you to Coastal Horizons for being such an important community partner with us. And I want to highlight that number that you said, 1.5% fatality rate for people who are receiving services for a subsequent overdose. That is a huge indicator of success. That is a huge indicator that we must continue to lean into these programs. And I just want to say on a personal note that young people, young men in particular, are the most affected group by this, although we know that it affects so many people in our community of all genders, ethnicities, of all age groups, but in particular young men under 45. And I think, without oversharing or without becoming too emotional, there are a lot of us in this room even who know that, but for the grace of God, there go I. I don't have the person that I'm thinking of's family's permission to share his story, but there is someone whose shoes I have walked a mile in, And it is only because he had a sports injury in college and I did not, and he became overprescribed and I did not, that I am sitting here today and he is not. So this touches all of us. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and let's continue this fight.
I'd also like to say on a personal note, we want to thank you guys for what you're doing. I pastor a church here called Warner Temple, and in our vestibule, we have a Narcan box. The Narcan box is like an old-fashioned newspaper stand where people can come through and they can open the box and they can get Narcan as many as they need, as many as they want. And we wanted it in the church because the church has actually done a number of Narcan trainings at Warner Temple. But I wanted it inside the church because I wanted the folks in the church to realize that we have this issue too. And it's amazing how many people come through, and it's placed so that they don't have any embarrassment, because all they have to do to get the Narcan out of the box is open the box up. They put their zip code and the number of the date, the zip code, and the number of Narcans they're going to take. And it's just amazing to see people come through there. We also do a Narcotics Anonymous program on Thursday evenings, and we allow that group to come through and take it. So we really appreciate that. Lastly, I was going to my church one afternoon and ran into a guy who was unconscious. And thank God I had a Narcan box in my car, and we passed it on, and it saved his life. So someone said to me once, he says that if you've got it and you save the person's life, they got another chance. If you don't save their lives, they don't have another chance. And you never know what people can do when they get that second chance, or third chance, or fifth chance. So we thank you for what you do. Any other thoughts? Any other comments? All right. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Chad?
Thank you, Jason. The first item, O2A, is the resolution essentially acknowledging the General Assembly's appropriation of the funds, entering into an agreement with the Department of Public Safety. The recommendation is the approval of that resolution, which will allow the program to continue.
Okay. Council, what's your wishes on item O2A? Okay. I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Celeste Andrews, seconded by Councilmember Luke Waddell. All right. All in favor, please vote. Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay. To the agreement. Okay, we don't need a second vote, right? All right, and then ask the council, what is your wishes for the first reading on item O2B, ordinance approving the funding for the North Carolina Department? I have a motion by Councilmember Luke Waddell, seconded by Councilmember David Joyner. All in favor, let it be known by the sign aye. Aye, and it is passed unanimously. All right, thank you, sir. All right, and we want to waive the second reading. All in favor of waiving the second reading, we've got a motion by Councilmember Luke Waddell and seconded by, I believe it was David Joyner. All in favor, let it be known by sign aye. Okay, ayes have it, and it is so ordered unanimously. All right. Thank you, sir.
That brings us to our next item of business, which is our resolutions. Item R1 is a resolution authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with the Wilmington and Beaches Convention and Visitors Bureau to provide tourism enhancements utilizing $650,000 of American Rescue Plan Act. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item that has appeared on your agenda twice before. As a result, we have not prepared a presentation for it. It's simply there for your action, which would authorize the manager to enter into the agreement to utilize the $650,000 through the program that you have previously discussed with the CVB.
Okay. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Spears, second by Councilmember Andrews. Discussion. Okay. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item R2, which is a resolution authorizing the filing of condemnation actions for acquisition of certain right-of-way and easements for the Wrightsville Avenue Sidewalk and Roundabout project. This time I'd like to recognize the city manager again, Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whitley Stavish, our Assistant City Attorney, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The resolution before you tonight is for the filing of condemnation actions for the Wrightsville Avenue Sidewalk and Roundabout project. There are 21 potential condemnations that we are looking to file in May. These consist of right-of-way, temporary construction easements, and permanent utility easements. In order to keep the project on schedule, this would need to be completed by the middle of May. This is an overview of the parcels that we will be filing on along the Wrightsville Avenue corridor. We have sent offers to all owners. City staff has reached out to all owners prior to filing. 5 of the potential condemnations have agreed to settle. We just have not closed yet. And we will continue to negotiate with owners and work towards resolutions before and after filing. Some barriers to resolution have been lack of response. About half of the condemnations we are seeking to file have accepted our offer previously, and we just haven't been able to get in contact with them to close. Additionally, there are multiple commercial properties around the Wallace Avenue roundabout, and those are significant takings, so that's another reason to file. And that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, staff? You guys are doing great work out there. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know this is hard work, but I appreciate it. This helps us move these projects along. And without your help and your help, Meredith, and your staff's help, we couldn't get these things done. So you're the point of the spear on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. What are the wishes of council in respect to item R2? We have a motion approved by Councilmember Andrews, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R3, which is a resolution awarding of construction contract to FSC2 LLC, better known as DBA Fred Smith Company, in the amount of $2,467,340 for the Fifth Avenue Street and Sidewalk Improvements Project. This time I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave Mays, our Public Works Director, will overview this item, and as he makes his way to the podium, I'd like to note that Dave is going to do a brief presentation on the improvements for Fifth Avenue, especially for those folks who have not been a part of previous presentations.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Very quickly, we started looking at Fifth Avenue after our 2019 or 2020 pavement condition survey. Pavement conditions on Fifth Avenue between Market and Greenfield are in very poor condition, failing condition, in fact. PCI ranges between a score of 19 and 49 for all segments. The sidewalk needs rehabilitation. There are broken panels. There's some areas where we don't have sidewalk. We have non-compliant ADA accessible ramps, and in some cases ramps do not exist. And we also have curbing sections that have become dislodged because of tree roots primarily. What you have before you tonight is a resolution to approve a contract to help us fix this problem. The project will include the improvements that are listed here, asphalt resurfacing for 15 blocks of roadway, 55 replacement ramps and 11 new ramps for ADA accessibility, 450 panels that will be replaced, 2,000 feet of new sidewalk will be installed, about 500 feet of curbing to be replaced, 1,400 feet newly installed. We've already started doing some storm drain lining, and we'll be replacing about 6 drainage structures. We'll be restriping this roadway for 1 through lane of traffic, a bike lane, and also the current parking lane that's there. The award also includes a landscape plan for the center median. The reason it took us so long to get here is because we've been coordinating with the Cape Fear Utility Authority. They will also get started with improvements that include 7,000 feet of water main replacement, 10,000 feet of sewer main replacement or rehabilitation, and service replacements for 100% of those services as well. So we are, oops, not sure why that was not showing up. We've broken up the project into 3 different sections. The first section is between Dawson, Greenfield to Dawson. The second section is between Castle and Dawson, and the third section is between Market and Castle. The work that the city will do is going to be contingent on the work being completed by the Cape Fear Utility Authority. We initiated improvements by removing the trees from the center median. That was completed in summer of 2023. Cape Fear Public Utility Authority has awarded a contract back in January and February. Their construction will begin in May, and their work will take 18 months. So this is a long-haul project to get all of this work done. We're here tonight to award the contract for Fifth Avenue Street and Sidewalk improvements. And again, the mobilization for our construction effort will be coordinated with the CFPUA contractor. So what's next? The CFPUA contractor will mobilize in early May. Their construction activities will begin near Dawson Street and will head south towards Greenfield. After we execute the contract, based on contingent upon your approval of the resolution, we'll schedule a pre-construction meeting and develop our construction schedule. Again, that will be directly coordinated with the CFPUA work to replace the water and sewer mains. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Joyner.
Thank you for presenting to us. My question is about the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. If the ultimate changes, improvements, new bridge has an increased height, the best estimates that have been brought to my attention would have it landing somewhere around Dawson and Fifth. How does that impact these improvements, if at all? And I know that's very hypothetical because we still don't know very much about the bridge, but if we're getting ready to do all this work and spend all this money and then that comes in a few years, I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
That is a very difficult question, and I'm not sure I've got a very good answer for you because there's the thought that the landing would move several blocks inward. That's going to be a significant impact. The conditions that we have right now with the road are in a failing condition. We can't wait for a decision to be made about where that bridge may decide to be built and how high it's going to be and where it may land on this side of the river, because the pavement's it's not going to last. So I don't think this is throwing good money after bad. I think we need to do these improvements. This is a price that's in our favor, so it's in line with what our estimate is. And this is repairing infrastructure that's already in place. So I know that may not be quite getting at everything that you were asking, but without true knowledge of what the impact would be from where the bridge is going to be landed, it's a very difficult to answer.
This is more of a comment. I know I've shared some of my thoughts with Tony about this, but we missed a great opportunity on this particular project to bury the power lines, and we have done, I think, an exemplary job with the city in the last 20 years in doing that on 3rd Street, on Front Street, South 17th Street, Market Street, and this is a significant gateway. We reestablished the bridge there, the Thelma Bull Bridge there on 5th. And I think that a project of this magnitude, we should take into consideration, just like we do with water and sewer and curb and gutter, the cost of burying lines. I think it's important, number one, from a hurricane perspective, you want to bury your lines, you're powered, you don't have to worry about trees. People have we're passionate about trees and our tree canopy here. It doesn't give the trees the opportunity to grow the way they should. It's something that this community has kind of moved toward for the last couple of years, and I would just hope moving forward on some of these projects, and Dave, you may be aware of them. We're not really aware of them until they're about 60 or 6 months out or a year out, but to start making preparations when we start making these kinds of projects, doing these projects, is to take into consideration doing that, because it has been a magnificent boulevard for years, and just being able to reestablish that bridge and then had the opportunity to do this, we just missed it. And I'm really upset about this one, because I know we talked about it, and I know it was about a $2 million improvement, but it could have been done. And I would just hope that moving forward, that we're looking for opportunities to do this, and not only just on Fifth Avenue, but in all parts of the community. I want, all parts of the community to benefit because of this. But I just hope that we do that, Tony, moving forward, and that staff really takes a really deep dive into some of this stuff and how we fund it. I know it's important, but I think the ultimate decision will be made by this collective body up here as to whether we do it or not. But I don't think that we should take aesthetics and sometimes put them on the back burner when they should be sometimes on the front burner, because what a community looks like and the impressions that people have of it, and what we see on community surveys is the entranceways to our community and the entranceways into our city are very important to our citizens. And I just think we should take a much more calculated approach to these things than what we do. Okay. All right, anybody else? Any questions?
I wish we had some before pictures of Market Street before, because all the trees were crotched. It was just horrible. And just to look at a beautiful boulevard where all the trees have to be, one half of them cut down or crotched out for the power lines, it's criminal. So when we did Market Street, Carolina Power and Light, who was precursor to Progress Energy and Duke Energy, they participated in it. We moved lines over to Dock Street and Princess Street. So I don't know if we get that kind of cooperation now, but I do know that burying lines is not cheap. It's very expensive.
That's right, and we certainly did have some engagement with Duke Energy. Those questions were all asked. They would certainly allow for it to be done, but that expense would belong to us.
Even if the expenses belongs to us, if you drive down that road right now, it looks like the Wild West from 1860. If you drive down that road and you look at the power lines and you look at the power poles that they have there, it's a publicly traded company. They ought to have to take more pride in what the condition of their poles and what the condition of their service looks like. They really should. Okay, thank you. But that's not, Dave, I'm not taking it on you. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
In case anybody thinks that.
Phil thinks he's a judge.
Okay. All right, ready to vote on this? All in favor of that, we have a motion made by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item R4, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with the Lakeside Partners of Wilmington Incorporated, a subsidiary of Good Shepherd Ministries of Wilmington Incorporated, for the construction of 32 units of supportive rental housing utilizing $2,113,506 of Hope Investment Partnerships Program, American Rescue Plan Program, Home ARPA funds, and the budget impact is $2,113,506. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudill. Mr. Caudill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rachel Lecoe, our Housing and Neighborhood Services Director, will overview this item.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Just really briefly, I want to provide a little background information about this item. Back in 2021, the Department of Housing and Urban Development had allocated about $5 billion in supplemental rescue plan funds through the Home Investment Partnership Program, to support communities in addressing homelessness, specifically supportive services and the acquisition and development of non-congregate shelter units. The City of Wilmington was awarded about $2.5 million in one-time home ARPA funding to assist qualifying populations. These include those who are homeless in emergency or transitional housing, the unsheltered, those at risk of homelessness, and those fleeing or attempted to flee domestic violence or other issues like that. The home ARPA allocation plan was approved at the March 21st, 2023 City Council meeting. It was based on a needs assessment and gap analysis, stakeholder interviews, including people experiencing homelessness, surveys, presentations, and a majority of the funding was dedicated for the development of supportive housing. A request for proposal for $2,113,506 for the development of supportive housing was released on January 23rd. Letters of intent were received on January 30th, with one proposal submitted on February 27th. Staff evaluated the proposal on the evaluation underwriting criteria shown, project site design, organizational stability, provider experience, readiness and capacity to proceed with the development, the developer experience and capacity, and the housing need. Lakeside Partners of Wilmington, a subsidiary of Good Shepherd Center, submitted for their supportive housing project at 3939 Carolina Beach Road. This was the only proposal received. This project is a 3-story building with 32 one-bedroom units. Residents will include seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities, all referred through coordinated entry, which is a HUD requirement for these funds. In addition, housing will be paired with intensive case management services. Shown here are the services that will be offered by Good Shepherd Center directly at the project site, with transportation provided or facilitated for residents needing additional off-site support. This project builds on the City Council's commitment to supportive housing over the past few years, starting with the sale of the Optimus Park, where funds were awarded to Eden Village of Wilmington to assist with infrastructure costs and the cost of a unit. Additionally, the rezoning and conveyance of the former fire station at 3939 Carolina Beach Road to Good Shepherd, the project site we're speaking about tonight. And additional proceeds were granted to Good Shepherd for the pre-development costs associated with this project. If approved, the project would be fully funded. The project leverages private and public funding. As shown, it received a $2.9 million forgivable loan from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency through the Supportive Housing American Rescue Plan, SHARP. Additionally, a $2 million grant from SCCU Foundation and about $500,000 in private donations. Based on the proposal and supplemental information, staff is recommending approval of the resolution to award Lakeside Partners, a subsidiary of Good Shepherd, the full funding request. Good Shepherd staff is here and available if there are any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, staff? Okay, thank you. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Andrews, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R5, which is a resolution to support the North Carolina Department of Transportation's NCDOT application for the U.S. Department of Transportation Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant, better known as MPDG, for the replacement of the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. At this time, I'd like to recognize our City Manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was actually brought to our attention by Councilman Waddell. We'd like to give him the opportunity to address it as he sees fit.
Yeah, I have a brief 30-minute presentation if everybody just settle up. This was brought to my attention in my capacity as the Vice Chairman of the Metropolitan Planning Organization by the DOT, NCDOT, and effectively it is an additional grant opportunity specifically for multimodal projects. So additional funding to fund the replacement of the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge because it will have multimodal capabilities. Right. Is that, that's your understanding too, right, Tony? Right. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, I guess this is another opportunity to get more grant funding. I know that.
Yeah, so we went after the large bridge grant, which is grants NCDOT went after the large bridge grant, which is to replace the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge, which is bridges over $100 million, and I believe they're just looking for any additional funding opportunities that may be out there. This is an additional grant opportunity that they have identified and that we being the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge replacement, is in line to potentially receive. They need, they being NCDOT, need resolutions of support from member jurisdictions of the MPO, and I believe the MPO itself will likely be adopting a resolution of support also.
You can make the motion.
And I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Waddell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is R6, which is a resolution committing the city's council and travel budget. This time I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 members of council that need to have their budget amended. These allocations that are originally placed in the budget are many years old now and do not reflect some of the more expensive costs that go with traveling nowadays. In addition, there have been a number of opportunities for council to travel and learn, and there are just a couple of council members, again, that will need transfers. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, as well as Council Member Joyner, will need a transfer of $750 each into their travel account. And then the mayor will need an allocation of $3,000. He is traveling on the behalf of not only the city, but also the Metro Mayors Coalition and some other groups with whom he is affiliated. Some of those expenses may be refundable, but we do not yet know how much of that and how much of it will have to be fronted. So on the outside chance, we have asked for $3,000 to be added to the mayor's budget. There is an allocation that is set aside every year in the sundry budget of $20,000 that is there to supplement the travel budgets of council members, and that's for where the money actually will come from. This is not actually a budget ordinance amendment. It is just authorization for the staff to transfer money from the sundry account into the line items for the council members. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Now, what are the wishes of council? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our last item of business, which is our reports. Item RP1, Council's appointments, committees for boards and commissions, and Councilmember Rivenbark, who's the chairman of that committee, will give that report at this time. Mr. Rivenbark.
Good evening. The Appointments Committee met. I serve on that as the chair. Councilmember Celeste Andrews is on that board along with Councilman Waddell, and Councilmember Celeste Andrews is going to read our report tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Rivenbark. As Councilmember Rivenbark mentioned, the committee met on April 1st, and we made the following appointments to the Greater Downtown Special Area Plan Steering Committee. We furthered the appointment by the Commission on African American History of Sierra Washington as part of the steering committee. To the City of Wilmington, New Hanover County Commission for Women, we appointed Madeline Schildwalker. And to the Sister City Commission, we appointed Catherine Lee. To the Wilmington Tree Commission, we appointed Matthew Moore. To the Zoning Board of Adjustment, we reappointed Patrick Moore and appointed Graham Mitchell, and then appointed Jess Johnson as an alternate.
Move the slate.
Okay. Make a motion.
I can't.
Motion made by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Andrews. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. This concludes the regular agenda. Are there any items to be brought forward by our city attorney,
No, sir.
city manager, Madam Clerk? I'm going to start on the left side today. Mr. Spears, Ms. Andrews?
Yes, I just wanted to say that besides the appointments that we did, we continued several of these items, which I can't pull up the document right now, but we still have several openings on boards and commissions that we need to appoint, and so I encourage anybody who would like to get more involved in your local government to go to the website, look under the city clerks category, and you can find all about the boards and commissions, the upcoming openings, and links to apply online or in paper.
Thank you. Mr. Reinbart?
I'm glad to see that some movement on the do not block intersection signs are going up at some of the real stressed intersections, and can't go up quick enough, because I ran into problems twice today. Couldn't get through an intersection and sat there and watched my green light turn red. So, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And broadly speaking, there are 4 types of neglect, and neglect is child abuse. Physical neglect, that's when a child's basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter are not met, and are not properly supervised. Educational neglect, that's when a parent chooses not to get their kids to school, either on time or not getting there at all. Then there's emotional neglect and medical neglect. So just kind of be aware of, the children in our neighborhood, the children in our families, and making sure that we honor them by not neglecting their needs.
Mr. Waddell?
Yeah, as we're all aware, there was a shooting inside a downtown nightclub over the weekend that, as I understand, left a young man critically injured. I don't know his status at this point, but I've said publicly recently, and I continue to believe that there are a few establishments downtown that are bad actors, and that they're consistent catalysts to violent crime in our downtown area. It's not fair to our law enforcement, who I will add ran towards the sound of gunfire immediately the other night, complete and total heroes, and deserve our utmost respect. It's not fair to the businesses that are around these establishments that are doing their best to stay within the law and run good business. And it's certainly not right for our community at large. And to that end, I'd like to direct staff, or request that staff begin to compile recent crime data related to these establishments that have become a nuisance to our downtown, and bring that data back to this body in whatever fashion we deem reasonable, that we can then decide what action we could take on some of these problems that we're seeing, these couple of bad actors. Thank you.
Mr. Joyner?
Yep.
Okay, and I'd like to also piggyback on what Luke had mentioned, that on Monday I had an opportunity, a business owner contacted me and asked me to come to their business to review the tape of the shooting that took place on actually early Sunday morning. And what I saw on the tape at 1:55 was 7 police officers and a sheriff's deputy in front of this establishment, 2 police cars, and I heard the gunfire, 3 shots. I saw people running in all directions. What impressed me the most was the 7 officers, men and women, that ran toward that club, apprehended the individual that shot that gun, and saved lives. And I just want to say to the men and women of the Wilmington Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, thank you. That was unbelievable work. And I saw it with my own eyes, and I was very impressed with each and every one of them. So with that, thank you for taking an interest in your government. We stand adjourned.